Chilling under the shower, our MC is loving that the hot water comes out instantly, no waiting required. Just by pressing a button on the remote, cool air already refreshes the entire room. Looking at the clear sky outside, the guy thinks about how this doesn't even compare to that other disgusting world. Just then, a bizarre monster pops up behind him while the kid is planning to kick back with some StarCraft. In the blink of an eye, the creature attacks, screaming, and our hero has to dodge on pure reflex. Totally in shock, he suddenly hears an announcement grabbing the attention of all the residents. Over the loudspeaker, a warning reveals that something called an erosion zone has appeared in the apartment complex, leaving the young man confused. Desperate, the guy peeks through the window, hearing the order for everyone to flee to the underground shelter. Suddenly, memories of a hellhole filled with macabre creatures flood our young MC's mind. Without wasting a second, the kid bolts down the building's stairs in a mad dash. At the ground floor door, the young man comes face to face with several beasts, having no idea what's going on with Earth. Cautiously, the warrior backs away and quietly closes the door so he doesn't attract the herde's attention. Leaning against the wall and out of breath, the hero celebrates his narrow, stinky escape. But looking down the hallway, he spots a little kid armed with a piece of wood who also notices him. In response, the little boy ignores the warning and surprisingly asks where the monster went. With fire in his eyes, the child declares he's going to take down the creature and even dares our MC to join him. Shocked by the audacity, the young man can't believe what he just heard from that tiny creature. On the stairs, the hero laments that Earth has been like this for 13 years and realizes he can't leave the stubborn kid alone. During their journey, the little boy explains things to bring our protagonist up to speed. It soon becomes clear that these erosion zones spit out monsters out of nowhere, and nobody knows why or when. Blind with rage, the kid realizes the irony of escaping one hellhole only to return to an Earth that's exactly the same. Hiding the truth, he tells the little tyke he didn't know anything because he was living in the United States. Absolutely baffled, the little boy says that even the American president got the boot for sending his daughter to Korea. The excited child quickly changes the subject and drops the name of a hunter named Lee Seon. In a wild video, the top 10 hunter slices up a huge monster with a giant sword, showing off all her power. Lost in thought, the hero wonders how mere humans can fight against these beasts, which they couldn't even do in the other world. Focusing on the conversation, he admits that the woman's stylish, massive sword is ridiculously strong. Suddenly, the kid tries to talk about a mandatory YouTube video, but gets a hand slapped over his mouth to shut him up. Staring tensely at the bottom of the staircase, the guy lets out a quiet curse, sensing the danger. Down below, several bizarre beasts crawl through the shadows, confirming the duo's worst nightmare. Cool and calculating, our MC counts exactly 5 creatures, plus one more hiding in the dark. Aware of his own strength, the hero notes that his body can handle taking on several enemies at once. However, worried about the little boy's safety, he knows that leaving the kid alone will end badly. With no decent weapon in his hands, the young man begins to channel a mysterious blue energy from his fingers. From the aura floating in the air, he realizes that the energy all around is pure mana. Certain that it's the same magic from the other world, our young MC gets his trump card ready. Immediately, one of the bizarre creatures notices the movement and focuses its murderous gaze on them. Without mercy, sinister purple flames erupt on the creature's body, making the beast scream in agony. With the mana in the air, he can cast magic, since he lost the energy he'd gathered for 20 years. Smiling, the hero summons his paradox black flame straight from his soul, even though it's weaker. Staring at the completely charred carcass, he concludes that his current power is good enough for now. Ecstatic, the kid praises the older guy, calling the magic a unique trait and leaving our boy relieved. Out of nowhere, the child runs off like a maniac, saying he needs to confirm the kill because of some YouTube channel. Desperate over the kid's foolishness, the protagonist yells out a warning about the danger of his dark fire. Ferociously, the still-burning beast leaps from the shadows, proving the magic doesn't go out until the target is gone for good. Furious with the situation, the hero screams to get the stubborn kid's attention. With a brutal punch, he tears through the beast's flesh and warns that he has no idea what this YouTube nonsense is. Standing in front of the smoldering carcass, our MC tells the child to stop watching that garbage. Asking to borrow the piece of wood, the young man leaves the kid on the floor, still processing the skin. Without hesitation, the warrior dives into the darkness of the pit, straight into the nest of the remaining monsters. With his makeshift club, he smashes the creatures in a display of acrobatics and frantic brawling. Amidst the black blood, the boy asks in awe if the older guy is a hunter in disguise. Disgusted by the filth on the floor, the hero laments having to smell that rotten stench of decay on his home planet. Nostalgically, he remembers suffering horribly in the other world, just so he could rest in peace here. Looking out from the shelter, it hits him that Earth has become the exact same disaster as the hellhole he fled. Now in the safe zone, the conversation flows about what they call kids these days as the boy walks relaxed. Suddenly, a desperate woman screams the little boy's name and runs toward them. Clinging to the boy, the mother thanks our young MC for saving her runaway tyke from certain doom. From the woman's designer clothes and expensive earrings, it's obvious the little one is a rich heir. Suddenly, a bizarre rumble shakes the entire shelter, making everyone turn their heads in shock. Out of nowhere, a gigantic fist smashes through the concrete wall, destroying the structure with absurd force. Through chunks of concrete, the invasion of macabre beasts begins, spreading panic in the refuge. Like a demon, the alpha monster bares its sharp teeth, roaring and ready to devour everyone. In total panic, the crowd despairs as they watch the protective barrier turn to dust. Terrified, the rich kid tugs on the hero's shirt, swallowing his tears and warning that now they really need to bail. Indifferent to the chaos, the young man keeps his head down, reflecting on how simple his wish was. Standing in the middle of the dust, all he wanted was to return to his normal world and the city he loved so much. Looking at his blood-stained hand, the MC wonders if dreaming of a little peace was too much to ask. Annoyed by the goofy nickname, the child retorts instantly, demanding respect in the middle of the chaos. Curious, our warrior fixes his gaze on the destructive Goliath and questions why a spoiled rich kid decided to become a hunter. Firm in his words, the little one says that no one should be forced to enter a battle. In a sad confession, the boy reveals he lost his father to an erosion zone, right inside a supposedly safe bunker. Determined, the little boy turns his back and swears he'll get strong enough to obliterate all these cursed zones. Screaming, the child announces that his ultimate goal is to literally save the entire planet. Happy with the answer, our young MC gives a sincere smile, assuring the boy he'll become a formidable hunter in the future. Step by step in the dark, our hero hears that he won't be able to save the world. Desperate, the mother pulls the boy back while the stubborn kid yells that the warrior is still in there. With his mouth wide open, the kid's eyes bug out as he follows the insane movement in front of him. In a raw shout, the child calls out for the older guy, full of hope. Covered in a sinister black aura, our protagonist declares that's exactly what he's going to do. Awestruck, the little boy finishes the sentence, realizing the topic is saving the world. With a confident smile, the warrior says that someone who's done it once can definitely do it better. Through the hero's memories, it's clear that after 20 years of slaying monsters in the other world, he returned to Earth only to face another erosion zone. Saved by his past life experience, our MC reflects in the dark room on his crazy promise to save the planet. Slumped in his PC chair and eating chips, the kid bluntly admits he did absolutely nothing. Focused on the screen, the gamer wins the match with ease and taunts his opponent. Totally relaxed, the young man remembers his own epic speech and confesses that the urge to play the savior lasted for a very short time. Next to his phone and a can of soda, the warrior appreciates the games and plentiful food that were an impossible dream in the hellhole from before. With his phone in hand, our young MC concludes that there are already hunters to protect the globe and decides to order some food, until he notices a problem. In absolute shock, the hero sees his bank account is completely empty and realizes the body's previous owner torched the entire severance package after getting canned from his delivery job. Without a single penny to his name, the young man realizes that finding a normal job is not going to work out at all. Facing the global crisis, the kid understands that companies are going bankrupt left and right because of these constant erosion zones. Staring out the illuminated window, the cruel reality hits that in modern society you can't survive without a job. Just then, a hunter recruitment ad glows on his phone screen, giving our hero the perfect idea. In front of the imposing association building, the warrior confirms that hunting experience is one thing his resume doesn't lack. Down the exam halls, the new recruits chat excitedly about the chance to go pro. From the talk between two guys in suits, it's clear the tests have become a total sham. You just need to show a unique trait to pass. With a look of mortal boredom, our MC scans the crowd and concludes it's just a bunch of small fry with no future. Suddenly, a woman with long dark hair walks by, drawing everyone's attention. Without noticing who's approaching, one of the candidates keeps bragging that their class is the best of all. Interrupted by the shock, the loudmouth's eyes go wide, and he yells that the famous Lee Seon is in the building. Surrounded by security, the world's number 10 ranked hunter and partner of the Janabi Guild makes her presence known, commanding respect. Amidst the gossip, the rookies freak out, trying to understand why a living legend would come down to recruit personally right after clearing the Chiorwan zone. On a tablet screen, the profile of Academy candidate Han Sanga appears, confirming the rookie has awakened the coveted power of electricity. In a good mood, the boss asks if the girl can be used as a battery charger, but gets a sharp shutdown from her glasses-wearing assistant. Sitting in the stands, the veterans agree the electric rookie has potential, but Lee Seon leaves an air of mystery hanging. Out of nowhere, an evaluator with spiky hair joins the conversation, warning that hunting in an erosion zone is pure real-world combat. The talkative guy claims that being a star at the academy doesn't guarantee survival in the field, and ends up getting a candy as praise from the boss. To illustrate the nightmare, the view shows rookies cornered by monsters, proving that fighting in real life is completely different from safe training. Down in the center of the packed coliseum, the announcer finally grabs the microphone and thanks everyone for their patience, announcing the event will begin shortly but will take a while. Taking a puff from her pipe, the elite hunter gives a smirk, focused on getting her recruitment job done quickly. With headphones on, the excited evaluator tells the candidates to raise their value in the arena. Focused on the provided weapon, our MC already catches the living legend's attention before even stepping onto the battlefield. Over the speakers, the announcer declares in shock that the boy is an ordinary civilian with no official academy training. Walking to the center of the stage, the warrior carries the reputation of being an unprecedented case in the tournament. Without a hint of fear, our boy flashes a confident smile as his real name, Yu Chanseok, booms throughout the entire stadium. Annoyed by the body's previous owner's name, the guy hears the rule that personal weapons are forbidden in the duel. With an analytical gaze, the kid understands that casualties are forbidden and mentally maps out his career plan in this new world. On the other side, his blonde opponent with a spear flashes an arrogant smile, ignoring epic goals and focusing on fame. Positioned at a safe distance, the two opponents wait for the signal, knowing their performance here will define both their futures. As soon as the call to fight rings out, the blonde kid charges like a madman with his spear on fire, mocking the MC for having no mana. Totally serene, our warrior hears his enemy tell him to feel honored by his imminent defeat. In a devastating straight thrust, the show-off proclaims himself the undefeated master of the academy while trying to pierce his target. With a fluid and almost invisible movement, the kid dodges the fiery attack, leaving his aggressor completely lost in the dust. With wide eyes, the spearman panics when he realizes his opponent simply vanished from in front of him. Already right behind his opponent, our MC calmly informs him that his spear skills are garbage. Without wasting a second, a sharp, brutal punch sinks into the blonde's ribs, shattering the wannabe tough guy's whole posture. Staggering forward, the defeated opponent hears the hero's taunt that he only used his bare hands so he wouldn't hurt the baby. Disappointed with the level of the fight, the young man concludes the guy is a complete amateur, and prays this isn't the average for hunters. In the stands, the powerful Lee Seon is speechless and intrigued, wanting to know where this bizarre kid came from. Checking the database, the assistant reveals, stunned, that the candidate was just a logistics grunt with almost zero mana in his body. Playing the expert, the evaluator with glasses declares that without stored energy, that perfect dodge could only have been luck. Unexpectedly, the boss holds out her hand, demanding back the candy she'd given as a prize to the loudmouth. Shutting her colleague up, the veteran hunter realizes the candidate is hiding his true magical aura on purpose. Annoyed by the power restriction, our hero cracks his neck and decides it's time to end this little show. Lying on the dirty floor, the spearman coughs up blood and stammers, not understanding how he got such a humiliating beatdown. Cold as ice, the protagonist looks down at the loser and tells him to relax, since the injury isn't fatal. With a merciless stomp straight to the face, the warrior crushes what was left of his opponent's dignity, knocking the poor guy out. Completely knocked out and drooling on the floor, the arrogant academy kid becomes just a rug stretched out in the arena. In disbelief at the speed of the thrashing, the announcers finally declare the absolute victory of candidate Yu Chanseok. Far from the stage, the suits from the association begin to murmur among themselves, assessing the damage caused by the mysterious boy. Tired of the bureaucracy, the world's top 10 hunter gets out of her chair, determined to see the prodigy's real skills. Striding firmly toward the backstage, the hunter ignores the questions and says she needs to have a little chat with the association director. In the following matches, the massacre continues, with our hero dishing out punches to all the rookies without the slightest mercy. Fight after fight, the extras drop like flies, confirming that the level of this selection is pitifully mediocre. Dodging a pathetic attack, the kid wonders what the heck these guys learned at the so-called Hunter Academy. Tired of playing in the sandbox, the young man sighs in frustration, wondering if a single decent opponent will ever show up. Suddenly, a commotion takes over the stands, with the audience cheering and pointing to the center of the arena. Stepping onto the mat, the famous silver-haired Han Sanga wields her sword, ready to try and stop the super rookie's march. With a hint of interest in his eyes, our protagonist finally adjusts his posture, hoping this girl will give him a challenge. Facing the MC, the platinum-haired girl points out that he doesn't have a drop of stored mana in his body. Mocking him to his face, she claims his luck has run out and the easy wins stop here. Tired of this tired old speech, our boy grips his weapon firmly, finding her lines pretty cliché. Focused on the fight, the MC's eyes light up as he warns that he won't be taking it easy at all. Being honest, the hero reveals he has a powerful, unique trait, but prefers to hide it so he doesn't seriously hurt anyone. Surprised by his boldness, the rookie swallows hard and yells that she's ready for the duel. At the sound of the gong, the swordswoman charges forward with everything she's got, tearing up the arena floor. Covered in brilliant lightning, the girl launches a devastating electrical attack at her target. With an effortless acrobatic leap, our MC dodges the lethal blade. Incredulous, the girl's eyes go wide, not understanding how he dodged a lightning bolt just by jumping. Back on the ground, the kid finds her technique interesting and starts to analyze her trick. In a teachable moment, the warrior compliments her skill, but points out that she forgot the most important detail of the move. Completely lost, his opponent stops for a second, trying to figure out her mistake. Without ceremony, he throws it in her face that she focused so much on speed that the technique became way too obvious in the air. With a superior smirk, the young man guarantees that no one falls for an attack with such a telegraphed trajectory. Annoyed by the lecture, the platinum-haired girl tells her opponent to shut up and stop being so smug. Full of rage, the rookie fires a colossal electrical blast at the boy. Our hero quickly gets out of the way, warning that he's not going to take a hit he already saw coming. Pushing her own limits, the girl starts to crudely draw in mana to try and turn the tables. In the blink of an eye, a thunderous flash of lightning detonates the entire arena stage. Worried about his rival's recklessness, the MC rushes toward her before she destroys her own body. In a precise charge, the warrior breaks the girl's defense in an instant. Blocking his opponent's arm, he praises her technique but warns that the game ends here. With a smile on his face, our boy tells her to raise her left hand if it starts to hurt too much. He immediately applies an armbar, mercilessly twisting her weapon backward. Screaming in agony, the student suffers under the relentless pressure of the hold. In the stands, the suits are jaw-dropped, watching the academy's top student get humiliated. Analyzing the situation, the kid notes that she only focused on magic and completely forgot about basic physical training. At that moment, the young man turns his head, noticing some strange movement around the arena. Trembling in pain, the rookie finally raises her left hand, giving up the fight. Fallen on the floor, the loser collapses as paramedics rush to help the poor girl. Satisfied with the result, our MC praises the girl for following his order perfectly. Through his earpiece, the event's announcer receives a notice that leaves him in absolute shock. Screaming into the microphone, the guy with glasses announces that the tournament schedule has just undergone a change. Confused by the sudden pause, the hero wonders what the heck is going on behind the scenes. Over the speakers, the announcer reveals a special match between the winner and an active hunter in the field. From up high, the association directors confirm they approved this last-minute craziness. Vibrating wildly, the audience goes into a frenzy over the surprise prepared in the arena. Sharpening his gaze, the MC realizes they set up this whole circus just to test his true level. Out of nowhere, a giant greatsword slams into the ground, cracking the floor. Striding forward with authority, the famous hunter approaches, justifying her unusual entrance. Wielding the colossal weapon, the living legend from the Janabi Guild states her name, commanding universal respect. Completely confident, the woman invites the rookie to a real duel since the stage so far has been a joke. Surprised by the world's number 10 ranker, the young man gives a tense smile, feeling the pressure of her monstrous aura. Calculating his chances, he mentally admits that with his current body, going head-to-head will be tough as nails. Accepting the challenge, our hero gives a sly little grin and doesn't back down. With a trembling voice, the announcer can hardly believe the boy accepted the fight on the spot. Impressed by his boldness, the veteran laughs, praising the kid's suicidal courage. Grabbing a random spear from the support staff, the MC prepares for the worst. In a swift movement, the hunter spins her greatsword and charges forward, slicing through the... Twirling the spear in his hand, the warrior decides this is the perfect moment to shine in the tournament. With an absurd metallic clash, the weapons collide, sending sparks flying everywhere. Feeling the brutal impact, the protagonist struggles to withstand the elite woman's raw strength. The two quickly exchange blows at a dizzying speed, destroying the floor around them. Noticing her advantage, the pro taunts him, saying the boy is already losing his initial steam. Drenched in sweat, the kid concludes that her defense is perfect, and his current body can't take the strain. Calmly, the hunter stops her attack, stating that he lasted 5 minutes longer than she expected. About to leave the stage, the legend says she'll now let the rookie rest in peace. In a surprise burst, she suddenly leaps to deliver the fatal finishing blow. With no way out and his energy bar at 0, our young MC sees the blade coming straight for him. Panting, the kid confirms he has no mana in his body and no magic in the air to get him out of this. With no other choice, he decides to resort to the tactic he's been keeping under wraps until now. With a sharp mind, the young man invokes the deadly power of the Paradox Black Flame. In the explosive impact, the arena floor turns to dust as the veteran's attack crushes its target. Back on her feet, the woman is indignant to see he escaped a blow that was impossible to dodge. Covered in a dark smoke, our boy reappears, leaving the hunter confused by that bizarre aura. With a smile, the hero finally reveals the name of his absolute power, cultivated in the other world. Confident, he guarantees this was the ace up his sleeve he trusted most before returning to Earth. Showing the intact fabric of his shirt, he explains that these flames don't burn physical matter. The warrior explains that the black fire only consumes abstract concepts to generate pure energy. In a brutal advance, the MC breaks the sound barrier, revealing his insane strategy. Utterly perplexed, the world's number 10 ranker doesn't understand how he got so fast in the blink of an eye. Screaming, he confesses he used the devouring flame to burn away his own body's fatigue. Shocked by the absurdity, the living legend realizes the boy just reset his own exhaustion in the middle of the fight. In a perfect spin with the spear, our young MC lands a devastating counterattack right on the elite hunter's guard. With the mana density rising and falling in the air, the hunter is completely confused, unable to understand the trick. In a teaching moment, our MC explains that his black flame burns abstract concepts to release pure mana into his body. Basically, the magic devours all accumulated fatigue and converts it into new energy for fighting. Creating an infinite and overpowered cycle, the boy plants his feet firmly on the ground, ready to continue the beatdown. Being very direct, the kid says that his true specialty is fighting to the very end. In a colossal exchange of blows, the arena trembles with the bizarre impact of the two legends. Surprised by his infinite stamina, the top 10 asks if the rookie plans to keep up this crazy pace. Focused on sticking to his opponent and not letting go, the warrior plants his feet, refusing to retreat even an inch. Covered by the dark aura, the hero declares that the battle has now turned into a war of pure mental and physical attrition. Full of mockery, our MC gives a cynical smile and asks if the veteran is into clingy guys. With no patience for jokes, the boss scowls and bluntly replies that she hates people like that. The hunter quickly retorts, reminding him that burnt wood turns to ash and you can't set fire to the same log twice. 4 hours and 17 minutes of pure brawling later, the MC's final black flame finally goes out. Thrown on the mat and panting, the kid calls it quits while the living legend calmly asks if he wants more. With the rookie's surrender, the announcer finally declares the victory of the hunter, who is already pulling out a giant lollipop to enjoy. In the stands, the suits lose their minds, shocked by the size of the candy their boss pulled out. In a very good mood, the platinum blonde tosses the lollipop and a business card right into our hero's lap. A closer look at the card reveals that the powerful woman is part of Team 3 of the giant Janabi Guild. With a wink, the woman tells him to call later if he wants to talk about the recruitment details. Over the speakers, the announcer finally ends the selection, calling the warrior to the stage to receive his prize. Taking a huge bite of the candy, our MC reflects on the so-called hunter agency that tried to snag him. Walking through the corridors, the kid admires his own license on his phone, thinking the future's technology is pretty wild. Suddenly, a giant dude pops up in front of the young man, confirming if he's the famous Yu Chanseok. All friendly, the tattooed behemoth praises the MC, saying he's much more intimidating in person than on camera. Noticing the guy's 6-foot-plus height, the hero looks up and gets straight to the point, asking who he is. Handing over a dark card, the brute introduces himself as a partner hunter from the Tibik Guild. With a scary smile, the big guy lays it on thick, saying that with the right guidance, the rookie will shine at the top. Suddenly, memories of the top 10 hunter winking flash through our boy's mind, making him freeze on the spot. Putting the piece of paper in his pocket, the young man is honest and says he already received a very strong offer. Laughing loudly, the tattooed guy doesn't care about the rejection and says he can think it over before making a final decision. Placing a heavy hand on the kid's shoulder, the giant changes his tone to say something serious. Staring down at the boy, the behemoth tells him to choose very carefully where he steps in this dirty market. Turning his back, the veteran leaves, letting our hero process the flood of information. Completely exhausted from dealing with weirdos, our MC immediately dismisses the giant guy's guild without a second thought. Pulling out his phone, the warrior calls the platinum blonde woman directly and asks for the address so they can have a serious talk. On the other end of the line, the boss tells him to go up to the second floor of the building and find a place called the Hut. Arriving at the location, the young man notices the simple sign of the coffee shop and finds the name pretty peculiar. Smiling, the waitress welcomes the customer as the atmosphere seems calm and inviting. Sitting in the corner, the elite hunter waves excitedly and praises the boy's speed in getting up there. Sitting in the comfortable chair, the hero hears the woman ask if anyone tried to stop him on the way. Getting straight to the point, the kid reveals that a huge brute tried to recruit him right at the arena exit. From the description, the veteran solves the riddle and concludes that the other smaller guilds chickened out when they saw that guy. With a cynical smile, our MC prods, asking if her mega guild is also going to chicken out in front of the giant. Taking a sip of her coffee, the woman surprises him by calmly stating that she has no intention of hiring the kid. Resting his face on his hand, the young man becomes interested and asks if it's possible to work alone, like a mercenary with no guild leash. Devouring his snack, the hero listens to the explanation that the rival guild would only offer him a dead-end rookie position. From above, the conversation flows about the brutal difference between being a low-level grunt and becoming a major partner in this market. In a mental chart, the hierarchy becomes clear, dividing hunters into interns, seniors, and the elite who run the whole show. Sketching out the structure, the woman explains that common hunters only get a fixed salary and obey the team leaders. At the top of the food chain, the partners split the heavy cash from the company, dividing all the gross profit from missions. The boy's brain quickly makes the connection, and he comments that this system is just like a law firm. Confirming the theory, the hunter reveals that he doesn't need to submit to being anyone's slave to become a partner at the top. Connecting the dots, the kid figures out that if he wreaks havoc on missions and becomes a legend, the multi-million-dollar offers will fall into his lap. Excited by the boy's intelligence, the boss agrees, pointing her finger, but then notices he won't stop eating her sweets. But being realistic, the protagonist gets real, saying that without an in and without contacts, no one is going to give a tough mission to a nobody. Resting her chin on her hands, the platinum blonde gives that killer smile and promises to be his bridge of contacts, completely free of charge. Chewing his food, the young man gets a suspicious feeling, not understanding the reason for so much charity from a stranger. Without any pretense, she lays her cards on the table, saying she wants to create a debt of gratitude so he'll sign with her guild in the future. Immediately, the living legend slides a confidential folder across the table, putting the first risky job in his hands. Analyzing the paperwork, the hero discovers an ancient contract about a corrupted area that was a headache 2 years ago. Logically, the warrior thinks the mission is just to go in there and slice up everything that moves inside the cursed territory. Correcting the rookie, the hunter explains that the job is to patrol the island for a month and take out any anomalies, receiving 20 million in total. Warning that the initial cash isn't eye-popping, she guarantees that the fame from this isolated mission will attract the market's sharks. With that foxy smile, the veteran ends her proposal and demands to know if the boy is going to step up to this challenge. Cutting to the back seat of a luxury car, a mysterious man in a suit questions if that kid can really handle the pressure. Driving down the highway toward the mainland, the vehicle moves forward as the chat about our hero's civilian past continues. Sitting in the dark with her legs crossed, the boss defends the boy, remembering that the nutjob destroyed an entire tournament with his bare hands. Impressed, the security guard at the wheel admits that holding his own against the boss for 4 hours in a brawl defies all human logic. Casually scrolling on her phone, the woman listens to the driver suck up, saying she obviously fought with the handbrake on. Looking out the window, the legend with 10 years of carnage under her belt confesses that she loves to play with her prey, but 4 hours was totally absurd. Cutting to the clear waters and isolated landscapes, the view of the peaceful Jayadondu Island hides the dangers awaiting our hunter. With the sea breeze blowing, the boss's voice echoes, reflecting that raw talent doesn't guarantee survival in a nest of beasts. Worried, the man in the suit remembers that the local association demanded seasoned hunters for this cleanup, because of the map's extreme danger. Questioning the decision, the henchman fears that throwing a rookie with no team into a mix of bloodthirsty mercenaries will end in tragedy. Unsheathing his sword with a sinister metallic sound, our MC tells the boss to relax, because the massacre is on him now. During her chat with the platinum blonde rookie, the boss reveals she has assigned someone extremely trustworthy to stick with her. Being completely honest, the veteran warns that if that bizarre boy reaches her level, the situation is going to get grim. With the spear on his back, our MC walks with focus toward his training destination. By the woman's logic, this mysterious kid has the potential to shorten the lifespan of any guild leader. Going back 1 month in time, the scene shows the young man arriving at his humble apartment after the arena. Clutching a ridiculously heavy box, the hero grumbles, not knowing what's inside the package. With great effort, the giant package slides into the cramped room. Sitting on the floor exhausted, the MC is glad the support package arrived right on time. After unlocking the metal latches, the lid finally opens, revealing the awesome contents. Immediately, the warrior's eyes light up as he sees the brand new equipment gleaming in front of him. Wielding the brand new spear, he realizes the weapon is perfectly suited for his fighting style. Also in the box was a glowing green vial that works as an emergency elixir for hunters. According to the label, this potion condenses magic from the atmosphere to release an instant burst of power into the user's body. Unlike normal folks, our kid pulls energy directly from the air without needing to store anything in his chest. Thanks to this overpowered technique, he skips the boring steps and can attack infinitely as long as there's aura left in the environment. However, this kamikaze tactic wrecks the body's channels if the magic isn't controlled with absurd precision. Looking at the green vial, the MC understands he needs to use the potion to forcibly widen these magical veins without blowing up. Staring at the sky through the window, the young man decides to train intensely for a month before stepping onto a real battlefield. In the present, the grim view of the isolated island of Jayadong marks the beginning of the bloody nightmare. Showing the barcode on his phone, our hero's access gets a green light at the military security barrier. Checking the data on his clipboard, the guard confirms the boy's identity and throws him right into Team 8's formation. Under the strong sun, the dented sign with the team number sways in the tense pier wind. Arriving at the meeting point, the warrior notices a few extras trembling with fear and mumbling about being sleepy. Surprised by a familiar figure, the kid's eyes go wide when he spots the female face in the group. With much shorter and neater hair, the platinum blonde Han Sanga is present, with her katana ready. Excited by the twist of fate, the rookie proposes an alliance but gets a sharp shutdown from our young MC. Insisting on a friendly partnership, she praises the warrior's strength until she notices his shoulder hanging at a bizarre angle. With a dry crack, he pops the bone back into place, sweating and ignoring his shocked colleagues' freakout. Cutting the small talk, the instructor's deep voice echoes, demanding everyone's full attention on the boat. From the top of the deck, the leader starts giving the final instructions so Team 8 doesn't become Monster Chow on day one. Paying attention to the speech, the young man listens to the explanation of technical terms, since there are a lot of greenhorns on the ship. By association rules, erosion zones get danger ratings, and the first one in a region always gets the alpha seal. Following the red route on the map, the main rift is located in an old church in the north of the ghost town. Receiving the suicidal patrol order, the mercenaries complain about the absurd risk of sending rookies to clean up all the mess. Stepping firmly onto dry land, the team finally enters the deserted and cursed soil of the island. Without warning, our hero feels a chill down his spine from the demonic energy hanging in the dense air. Coming down the boat ramp, the platinum blonde teases the warrior, saying he's being overly dramatic about a little breeze. Finishing his warning, the leader says the command room on the ship serves as support for anyone who calls for an emergency rescue. Wishing the grunts luck, the chief dismisses the crew to begin the hellish sweep of the concrete jungle. Forming a tense circle, the group improvises a quick plan to cover the gigantic perimeter during the week. Taking the lead, a hunter with glasses suggests setting up base camp at a Buddhist temple in the mountains. Checking the terrain on his phone, our MC analyzes the route up and finds the tactic quite useful. Totally annoyed with the impromptu leader, one of the mercenaries demands credentials, calling the guy with glasses a pushy meddler. Maintaining his posture, the strategist argues that the mountain's height provides a commanding view of the entire rotten region. Crossing his arms, a big guy retorts furiously, thinking it's crazy to climb a mountain to fight monsters only to end up trapped up there. With no patience for ego tripping, our hero refuses to be a lackey for an inexperienced leader and decides to go it alone. Entering the dense forest, the team ends up splitting, taking different paths to try and cover more ground in their search. Leaping through thick branches, the MC moves quickly, followed closely by the platinum blonde and another suspicious tag-along. Stealthily, the hunter with glasses follows the duo, sweating nervously from the insane magical aura radiating from the boy. Stopping abruptly, the warrior turns his head and calls the pursuer by name, demanding an explanation for the chase. Playing the protective dad, the guy named Kim Minnie makes up an excuse that he came to protect the two inexperienced rookies from the dangers of the woods. Suddenly, a tearing sound in the foliage makes our hero freeze in his tracks and lock his body in place. Putting a flat hand behind him, the young man tells everyone to shut up and not make a single sound. Whispering orders, the MC points his finger and tells the four eyes to peek from behind a huge rock on the cliff. Curious and scared, the hunter peeks through a crack in the rock, and his eyes widen in instant panic. Just below in the dark valley, a horde of more than 50 disgusting beasts marches out of a cave. Shaking in his boots, the meddler loses all his color and suggests turning back to escape this suicidal carnage. Cool and calculating, the kid holds back the other's panic and asks what the heck that coward's unique trait is. Pressing the wavering colleague, the hero reminds him that hunters exist to fight anomalies and demands an answer, straight up. Stuttering from pure terror, the guy with glasses confesses that his main magic is throwing fireballs. Satisfied with the magic's usefulness, our warrior decrees that the Fire Master will launch the first surprise attack against the herd. In disbelief at the order, the scaredy cat looks around, and the platinum blonde also freezes at the completely suicidal plan. In whispers, the hunter calls the MC a lunatic for wanting to take on 50-plus freaks on their very first mission. Cutting off the tantrum at its root, the hero says that calling for backup on the radio will take too long, and the horde will scatter across the whole map. By tracking logic, the rest of the useless team is down at the beach, and would never reach the mountains in time to help with the slaughter. Showing their claws, the monsters loose in the woods would spread chaos, picking off the other groups at night. Processing the harsh reality, the scaredy cat swallows hard and agrees that the kid's tactical vision makes perfect sense. Letting these creatures escape now would cause a brutal massacre against the weaker mercenaries patrolling the island. Maintaining his unshakable posture, our MC states that in such an absurdly outnumbered situation, a swift ambush is the only way out. Using his knife to draw in the dirt, he sketches out the formation, ordering fire to be thrown into the center of the horde while he covers the flanks of the massacre. Passing the sharp order to Sanga, the Four Eyes is shocked by the supposed rookie's strategic mind. Analyzing the impromptu leader's coolness, the guide deduces that the rookie has years of carnage under his belt from his precise choices. With no time for doubt, the marksman leaps from the bush and throws himself into the air, preparing the hot magic core in his hands. Yelling the fierce signal to attack, the hunter fires a colossal blast of flames that lights up the entire forest. With a deafening impact, hell rains down on the horde, incinerating dozens of beasts amidst screams of pure agony. Thrown on the cliffside, the scaredy cat asks for a moment to recharge his magic for the next attack. With a confident smile, our hero tells his ally to take it easy and let him know when the charge is full. Diving into the smoke, the young man tears through the beasts, remembering that in combat, prioritizing efficiency is the golden rule. Slicing through monsters in the blink of an eye, he promises to hold the line until the second attack is ready. In a bloody dance, the warrior spins his spear, making sure no creature touches his support ally. Surrounded by the herd, the MC mentally admits that he couldn't have obliterated so many enemies at once without help. Keeping his cool, he concludes that a team's division of roles makes all the difference in surviving a massacre like this. On the other flank of the fight, the platinum blonde girl blocks a brutal attack with her katana glowing with electricity. Slicing off a monster's head, she lets out a breath, proving that the hastily thought-out formation is holding up. Pumped with hot energy, the Four Eyes gets up with his hands on fire and yells that the magic is ready. Immediately, the hero tells the marksman to fire with everything he's got, without worrying about hitting the battlefield. With his veins popping, the hunter hurls the massive sphere of flames, creating a deafening explosion. On reflex, our young MC tells his allies to duck so they don't take friendly fire damage. Covered in dark smoke, the forest cools down, revealing that the crazy ambush was a total success. Releasing the tension, the young man sheathes his spear, congratulating the rookies on their great teamwork. Out of nowhere, the frightened marksman pulls out a firearm, pointing it straight at our protagonist with a trembling hand. Shocked by the sudden betrayal, the platinum blonde freezes in place, not understanding her ally's madness. Screaming in shock, she asks why he's turning his weapon on them right after being saved by their impromptu leader. Sighing in frustration, the scaredy cat reveals that the thing in his hand is just a tracker, not a real revolver. Pulling the tool's trigger, he activates a technological beep that shoots a green laser. Getting closer, the MC deduces that it's a chip launcher to make it easier to collect items from the slain monsters. Explaining the trick, the Four Eyes says he has a contract with a junkyard dealer who will collect the remains and split the cash later. To avoid carrying rotten monster parts in his backpack, he just has to tag anything that looks valuable and get out of there. The mission's profit skyrockets when the marked creatures become parts on the black market, securing the hunter's commission. Agreeing with the reasoning, the young man states that in the world of hunters, trusting a partner junkyard is essential to not get ripped off. Finishing the job, the scaredy cat turns to our hero, impressed by the ease of the combat, saying he never imagined he'd get out alive. Suddenly, the sky darkens, and the scaredy cat is violently thrown against the mountain by a giant shadow. Bouncing on the ground, the ally spits blood from the absurd impact of the fall. Startled, the protagonist brandishes his weapon and analyzes the sinister shadow kicking up dust in the newly formed crater. The familiar feeling hits the boy's spine as he realizes the true level of the nightmare that has just arrived. Raising its muscular body, the reddish creature howls at the moon, revealing itself to be the sub-boss of the decimated horde. Frustrated with his bad luck, our kid lets out a tense curse. Facing the diabolical beast, the hero notices the overwhelming presence that anomaly emanates without even moving. The absurd volume of rotten mana gushing from the creature signals that this is no longer a fight for greenhorn rookies. Realizing there's zero chance of escape for his allies, the warrior plants his spear in the ground, taking charge of the situation. Terrified, the marksman screams desperately for him to fall back before he becomes monster meat. In a dark tone of command, the boy silences the duo, leaving his partner shocked by the abrupt change in atmosphere. Coldly, our MC decrees that he'll solo the beast and any help would just get in the way. Maintaining a deadly calm, he calls the big monster a winged bastard to draw its attention to a melee fight. In a flash, the two figures disappear from sight, blasting the landscape with thunderous shockwaves. Worried, the platinum blonde hesitates, wondering if they should join the fight, seeing the hero seemingly being pushed back. Suddenly calm, the Four Eyes tells her to lower her weapon, noticing their mysterious partner's impossible movements. Impressed, the analyst points out that, in reality, the MC hasn't taken a single hit since the fight turned into an insane blur of speed. Beyond the perfect evasion, there's a lethal detail in each charge that doesn't go unnoticed by the experienced marksman. With absurd dexterity, the young man dodges the beast's deadly attacks, and then immediately pierces the enemy's flank in a fluid combo. With each thrust of the blade, patches of pure black flame stick to the sub-boss's thick hide. Explaining the magic's physics, the narrator reveals that the more the fire spreads, the slower the monster becomes. Smiling and without a drop of sweat, our MC starts to play with the creature as if it were a puppy. Startled, the katana-wielding rookie murmurs in disbelief if that boy in the arena is really an amateur rookie like them. Without mercy, the warrior kicks the reddish Goliath's heel, sending the giant tumbling dozens of meters down the hill. Landing gracefully, the hero puts force into the weapon's handle, sensing the end of the fight. In a precise rocket-like throw, the spear cuts through the wind and disappears into the darkness. Frozen, the marksman's eyes go wide, stunned that he threw away his own main weapon. Desperate, the ally yells to the hero that the creature survived, and is charging furiously with the blade stuck in its belly. In a grotesque lurch, the beast throws itself into a kamikaze attack, thirsty for the insolent rookie's blood. Calculative, our boy just raises his hand, watching the black fire finish melting the enemy's muscle fibers. Fixing his icy gaze on the burning carcass, he decides he needs to put out the fire to avoid attracting more unwanted attention. Out of nowhere, the hollow impact ends the fight, making his partners tremble at the speed of the finish. Drooling in shock, the Four Eyes doesn't understand how the mountain of muscle simply collapsed, turning into a harmless pile of ash. Turning his back on the charcoal, the young man picks up his spear and tells his colleague to pay attention to what he's about to say. Straight to the point, the hero asks if it's normal for such a high-level sub-boss to pop up in this cushy part of the map. Going over the technical terms, he remembers that erosion zones go from 3 to 1, and this rift on the island didn't even have a risk rating yet. From the looks of it, the boy lays it on the line that the main nest has been corrupted and mysteriously evolved straight to level 3 during their patrol. Clutching her katana, the platinum blonde freaks out, saying no one from the association warned them about a triple jump in the rescue's difficulty. Pale and stuttering, the Four Eyes guesses that if the nest really is level 3, the difference in danger and raw power of the rift goes from trash to treasure. Looking at the starry sky, the view focuses on a bloodied hunter falling to his knees, with the realization that almost no one on patrol will make it off the island alive. Full of blind heroism, the marksman begs the boy to lead them to save the rest of the idiots who are probably becoming dinner on Jiadong's beaches. Snorting in annoyance, the MC refuses on the spot, claiming he doesn't have the energy or the obligation to play suicidal babysitter for grown men in the dark. Refreshing their weak memories, the hero repeats that the real mission isn't to save the country, but to check for new rifts and get back alive to collect their pay. Confronting him, the katana girl tries to manipulate his feelings, asking, "What if it were you in the shoes of the people getting torn apart right now?" Appealing to empathy, she suggests that anyone in that situation would beg for a magical rescue in the same way. With the cold eyes of someone who has already died inside, our hero agrees with the emotional logic, but warns that feelings don't change the facts in practice. Recalling the memory of his own bearded master being consumed alive by beasts in the other world, the MC makes it clear that some ends are simply unchangeable and impossible to stop. Remembering tragic flames, the warrior warns that against a disaster of this magnitude, you either run for your life or you end up burning with it. With the dark smile of a survivor, he finishes his lecture, demanding the rookie duo drop this hero fantasy before it gets all three of them wiped out. Silently, the scaredy cat listens to the promise that trying to play the blind hero in this world is a one-way ticket to the great beyond. Ignoring the shaken duo, the hero reaches the mountain temple and sees that the place is still standing. Looking around in the dark, the marksman confesses that the pitch-black night hides whether there's any danger nearby. However, the lit lights on the horizon give away the positions of the other patrol teams scattered across the island. Commenting on the tactical blunder, our boy remembers that turning on a beacon in a nest of beasts is basically asking to get taken out quickly. From the shadows, a medium-sized creature observes the points of light, proving the theory that a signal in the dark becomes a magnet for tragedy. Being practical, the young man pulls out his phone and decides to leave a warning in the team's group chat about the sub-boss they just finished off. Typing the message, he states that the Alpha Zone has definitely jumped to level 3 and tells everyone to turn off their flashlights if they want to live. Putting the device back in his pocket, he asks his two allies what happens if the area's main core is destroyed. With a cold and calculating look, The protagonist processes the information that all secondary creatures turn to dust as soon as the source of corruption disappears. With this perfect shortcut, the kid already mentally plans how to erase the source of the problem without wasting time on pawns. Checking the communication device, he relaxes for a few seconds since the base's radar isn't beeping to warn of nearby danger. With no monsters tracked in the immediate vicinity, the hero decides it's the ideal time to go down the mountain and head straight for the nest. Leaping across the sanctuary's roof tiles, the warrior moves swiftly through the shadows, focused on the final objective of the cleanup. Smiling at the wind, he confesses to himself that things were going a little too smoothly to be true. Suddenly, a purple claw tries to decapitate the hero, but he blocks the impact with a superhuman reflex. Emerging from the darkness, yet another beast he's never seen before blocks his path, bearing its blood-stained fangs. Far away, the command center is in a panic, with operators yelling reports of total chaos all over the island. Screaming, an analyst tells the chief that the monsters are staging organized ambushes and have already taken out a veteran hunter from Team 3. Sweating bullets, the director activates the highest emergency protocol, demanding regional reinforcements to prevent a genocide of the entire patrol. Suddenly, a radar technician turns his screen and warns, trembling, that a lone dot is marching straight into the heart of the danger zone. Ordering immediate contact, the room's chief asks to tell the madman to turn back before he becomes chopped meat. Zooming in on the map, the supervisor pulls his hair out, realizing that the so-called suicide case is none other than Yu Chanseok from Team 8. Connecting the dots, the director concludes that this rookie was the only one who noticed the area's bizarre level upgrade and quickly deduces the boy went to solve the problem at its source. While trying to establish radio contact, the channel fills with static under the violent assault of another pinkish monster attacking the kid. In a backflip, our MC dodges with ease, recognizing that this new creature is much slicker than the sub-boss from before. Meanwhile, the command desk hears the boys' transmission, cursing them out as idiots for not checking the area properly. Running through the woods, the hero realizes that with his body's current level, his black flame can't instantly incinerate the creature. Devising a tactic, he decides the magic will only serve to drain the beast's stamina while the spear does the heavy lifting. In a frontal charge, he slices through the creature's armor, driving the blade in deep to try and bring down the fleshy giant. Tired from the fight, he notes that he burned too much magic clearing the horde of bats, and now his reserves are low. Leaping into the starry sky, the kid charts a course in search of the problem's epicenter to refuel his vital energy. Landing softly on a branch, he finally locates the source of cosmic distortion pulsing in the middle of the dead forest. Right behind him, a draconic head tries to snatch the young man in midair, but the platinum blonde girl's lightning saves the hero's skin. Dodging the bite, the protagonist wields his spear again and tells his allies to stop messing around and follow him closely. With a somewhat macabre smile, he confesses he found what he was looking for and needs a little peace and quiet to investigate. Back in the ship's room, the tracker simply vanishes from the map, leaving the director as white as a sheet. Swallowing hard, the man in the suit relays the warning that the kid has breached the barrier of the corrupted Alpha Zone. Arriving at Ground Zero, the boy walks among black stones, admitting the area is much less chaotic than the books say. Reflecting with the duo, he ponders what a level 1 danger zone would look like, since this level 3 here is relatively clean. Enjoying the night breeze, the warrior takes the weapon off his shoulder, announcing that the sightseeing tour is over. Out of nowhere, a new muscular sub-boss jumps in their path, and our hero smiles, asking if the beast wants to skip the boring part and go straight to the coffin. Roaring in fury, the purple monster claws at the air, showing that conversation with this species doesn't flow friendly. Gripping the handle firmly, the MC analyzes the restrictions of his own black flame and decides it's better to focus on pure physical tactics. Recalling a disadvantage, the dark magic's worst characteristic is that it sticks to any ally except the main caster. Faced with the support duo, the hero understands that resorting to chaotic fire in a close-quarters fight would be the same as toasting his own team. With no room for a magic show, he puts the spear aside, frustrated at not having absolute control of the field with his magic now. Throwing himself in empty-handed, he goes head-to-head with the big guy who tears up the earth in a brutal, raw charge. With a sharp punch straight to the stomach, the monster doubles over, vomiting blood from the first impact with the kid's bare hands. Lifting the giant, he lands another crushing combo, grinding the beast's ribs without mercy. Sighing calmly, our young MC concludes that if he were soloing, he wouldn't have this problem of holding back, but whatever. With a sinister crack, the hero breaks the creature's guard while absorbing the scattered mana in the dense atmosphere of that place. In a crushing flash, the bluish energy enters the boy's pores, charging his mystical batteries to maximum capacity. Forcing the expansion, he pushes the magic into every millimeter of his body, forcibly rebuilding and widening his vital channels. Gritting his teeth in pure pain, he forces his vessels to dilate to handle the absurd new amount of power coming in all at once. Cracking his now ripped neck, our young warrior realizes that this mana-rich zone served as a perfect intensive gym session. Suddenly, a strange glow begins to form a summoning circle in the pool of blood left by the slain beast. Staring at the ground, the kid lets out a sarcastic smile, noticing the delayed emergency signal emitted by the sub-boss's bodies. With his arms crossed, he patiently waits for the filth to emerge from the distortion, finding it beautiful that a pile of prey is coming to face the slaughterhouse. Facing a dozen gigantic winged monsters, the MC laughs, asking if the deceased called their crew to get beaten up together. Wielding the spear covered in devouring fire, the warrior says it's a shame he has to get his hands dirty with insects again. Walking slowly through the epicenter of the destruction, the kid realizes that just slicing with brute force isn't as fun anymore. Analyzing his own core, he celebrates the insane evolution of his current body, but confesses he's still a long way from the overpowered monster he was in the other world. Stopping amidst the carcasses, the hero fixes his gaze on a black fissure, looking for where the boss of this whole mess is hiding. Suddenly, the darkness opens, and the spear's dark fire dissipates with an invisible cut. Spinning in the air, a cloaked entity lands on the scene, hitting the ground with a dull thud of pure crushing pressure. Maintaining his cool, our young MC mocks the creature's intelligence for hiding and waiting for his black trump card to lose effect and fade away. With its eyes narrowed, the pale-masked creature shows why it's the main core of the place, radiating an incalculable, sickly aura. Sharpening the tip of his spear, he whispers a promise to drive it into the middle of the alien's face, testing how many combos his current mana can sustain. In an instantaneous sonic boom, the young man flies toward the beast, breaking the sound barrier in a bluish streak of light. With all his pent-up fury, he launches the piercing thrust, forcing the core to put up its arms to defend against the deadly impact. Concentrating magic into his feet, the kid invokes the double image thrust. Immediately, the speed shatters the enemy's vision, creating a devastating shock at the center of its guard. In the heat of battle, the entity blinks, realizing the first impact was just a warning of its approaching demise. Leaving a blue trail in the empty air, the spear unloads a deafening combo of consecutive attacks, crushing the creature without a break. Thinking quickly, our hero evaluates the simple technique of connecting 4 straight thrusts. Devising a lethal variation, the young man imagines the damage if the ghostly blue trail attacked with a slight delay in the sequence. In a brutal double attack, the spear becomes an absolute nightmare for the creature to even try to dodge. Trapped in this temporal snare, the pale-masked monster enters total desperation. In the blink of an eye, the phantom strike hits its target dead-on, breaking through its defense. Cold and calculating, the warrior declares that the enemy was bound to slip up under the infinite pressure. With a bloodthirsty look, the kid announces that it's the end of the line for the abomination. In a devastating blue flash, the spear cuts through the main core, tearing through air and flesh at the same time. Seeing the body disintegrate into particles, the MC finds it strange that the boss just vanished. Suddenly, a mysterious box appears from the ashes, leaving the hunter confused by the unusual loot. Without delay, he opens the lid of the small artifact to check the prize from the carnage. Faced with the intense glow inside, the boy's eyes widen, shocked by the reward he earned. Far away, the control room collapses as the erosion area swallows the center of the island on the map. In tears, the director hears that the rescue squads have lost contact and walked right into an ambush. Completely hopeless, the man in the suit murmurs if this is the end for everyone in the operation. Resigned to the disaster, the leader accepts that only a miracle can prevent the deaths of his hunters. Suddenly, a sound alert flashes on the screen, bringing an urgent message from our lone rookie. Throwing the notice on the main screen, the entire room reads in disbelief that the Alpha Zone has been completely obliterated. Frantically checking the radars, the operator yells, confirming that the demonic energy has vanished from the radar. Shaking in his boots, the director can barely process that the so-called miracle actually happened at the hands of a rookie. Sitting on the rocks in the middle of the woods, the hero takes a deep breath, praising the clean dawn air after the kill. Back on the front lines, the support crew continues to suffer horribly against the remaining beasts. With her katana shining brightly, the platinum blonde tries to keep the formation alive against the purple swarm. Providing desperate cover, the marksman fires magic non-stop to hold back the beast's violent advance. Exhausted and panting, the swordswoman realizes the number of enemies has tripled, and their leader has vanished into the darkness. With a choked voice, the scaredy cat asks his ally if they have any chance of getting home alive. Just down the hill, a gigantic horde of macabre beasts surrounds the duo, leaving no escape route. Analyzing the critical situation, the girl realizes her four-eyed partner has already burned through all his stamina and maxed out his magic. Feeling the cut on her leg throb, the rookie mentally admits that her own body is also begging for a break. In a furious somersault, a hideous creature lunges straight for the hunter's head. In a survival reflex, the young woman tries to dodge the lethal pounce by any means necessary. But her weakness gets the better of her, and the warrior stumbles, falling vulnerably backward. Seeing her end right before her, she realizes her own legs have completely locked up from terror and exhaustion. Screaming, her scaredy-cat partner calls out his friend's name as the beast's sharp jaw almost touches her. Out of nowhere, a colossal boom makes the entire forest tremble, and the killer beast simply evaporates into thin air. Thrown to the ground, the platinum blonde slowly opens her eyes, not understanding who saved her at the last second. As if by magic, all the surrounding creatures turn into gray dust, leaving the hunters speechless at their disappearance. The next morning at the Jiadong military camp, our MC walks calmly with his spear relaxed on his shoulder. In the corners, mercenaries gossip, shocked by the absurd rumor that the rookie soloed a level 3 zone overnight. Paying no mind to the extras, the kid continues his silent walk across the lawn. Just then, a suit from the association runs toward him, relieved and waving frantically. Holding his phone, the marksman ally celebrates, showing the official message confirming the successful cleanup. Curious, the swordswoman questions what crazy idea went through his head to invade the Dark Core alone and risk everything. Playing humble, the sly guy sits down, faking exhaustion, and decides to keep up the savior-hero pose to score some points with the agency. In front of him, the director in a suit formally introduces himself, thanking him for the impeccable service on behalf of the corporation. Recognizing the big shot, our boy understands he was the one who activated the emergency network hours ago. Getting straight to the point, the suit says that the mayor of Incheon insists on meeting the hero personally, right now. Looking at his reflection in a puddle, the kid thinks about how suits love to boss people around like they own the world. Walking to the black luxury car, the young man already starts mentally calculating the financial leap from this unlisted mission. Sitting in the back seat in the rain, the warrior responds to the greetings with that look of unbeatable boredom. In the front seat, the communications officer introduces himself with a wide, forced smile. The talkative guy confesses he almost had a heart attack when he read the report of the solo carnage in the middle of the night. Announcing that the politician canceled his entire schedule, the officer sucks up while our MC finds the whole fuss a huge exaggeration. Excited, the employee mentions that destroying a level 3 alpha zone on a first mission has only been done before by the legend known as the Great Pioneer. Opening the door to the super luxurious office, the assistant announces the triumphant arrival of the nation's savior. Getting up from his leather desk, the governor thanks the young man for his visit despite the awful weather outside. All friendly and chubby, Mayor Parkjin extends a hand to our hero, making small talk. Inviting the boy to the sofa area, the politician has his secretary fetch some fresh coffee to warm up the conversation. Serving the hot drink, the assistant listens to her boss' lavish praise for the tremendous service rendered to the nation. With the steaming cup in hand, the leader explains that the corrupted island was a budgetary nightmare to clean up with the big elite guilds. Coffee in hand, our kid agrees and reveals that the bloodbath was literally his first official mission. Shocked by the information, the governor rises from his seat, proud to have discovered a monstrous prodigy born in his city. Without losing momentum, the chubby man begins a fiery speech about South Korea being the last safe country on planet Earth. Gesticulating excitedly, he praises the perfect infrastructure of the local airport and the goods flowing through the economic hub. Through the huge glass window, the metropolis shines with futuristic buildings, proving the absolute power of the Songdo region. Thrilled with his own monologue, the mayor cites the billions in funds that circulate daily through the international city's streets. Looking deep into the young man's eyes, the suit promises to pull strings behind the scenes to clear any obstacles in the hunter's bright future. Focused and impassive, our young MC cuts through the cheap politics and asks for permission to ask a single, direct question. Cutting to the car ride, the suited official asks what the warrior's true goal is in his blood-soaked profession. Brutally honest, the young man compares the danger zones to a clogged toilet that needs someone with the guts to go in and clean up the crap. Surprised by the disgusting metaphor, the driver swallows hard, gripping the steering wheel and agreeing with the extremely pragmatic. Driving down the rainy highway, the employee warns that sudden fame brings multi-million-dollar commercials and spotlights that can blind the mind. Worried, the man cites several prodigy rookies who drowned in popular vanity and completely forgot their duty to slay beasts. Explaining the world's wretched geography, the guy remembers that just beyond the safety line, there are pure hellholes filled with beasts. Finishing the tense chat in the vehicle, he reinforces that the country is the last untouched sanctuary of humanity, but even that is at risk due to capitalist greed. In the car, the suit praises the tremendous feat, stating that a lot of people will be keeping an eye on this absurd success. Seriously, the mayor declares that he only hopes the warrior will continue to be a beacon of hope for the shattered nation. Facing the rainy window, our MC reflects on how far the politician would push to get what he wants. With an ironic smile, the kid notes the chubby man's lack of subtlety and remembers he's lived too long to fall for a scam. In his past life memories, he went through worse disasters to be swayed by this cheap talk from a suit. Cutting to the chase, the hero says he needs to give something in return for all this sudden political support. Dropping the bombshell, the young man suggests helping a mayor with falling popularity secure his dream re-election. Sitting down heavily, the man admits the boy is well-informed, while the hero praises the gossip on modern cell phones. It soon becomes clear that his term ends next year, and his chances of winning at the polls are terrible for the chubby guy. Sweating, the politician changes the subject, pointing out that the rookie needed special permission from the city hall to fight. Figuring out the move, the protagonist describes the plan to become the poster boy discovered by the brilliant Park Jin. Kamer, the municipal leader, uses his influence with mega corporations as a bargaining chip for the deal to flow. Displaying a box of coffee, he suggests plastering the rookie hunter's face on it instead of the famous brand's old model. Promising a sea of money, the man is interrupted in the middle of his aggressive marketing speech. Sighing in frustration, our boy finds the offer too cheap and understands the politician just wants to ride the wave of his hard work. Still talking, the mayor claims the world needs new faces to dispel the global mood of sadness. By the young man's reasoning, continuing to slay monsters would inevitably bring that fame naturally, without needing any favors. Cold and direct, the warrior concludes that all these sponsorships would fall into his lap anyway, without needing a political leash. Desperate, the chubby guy offers safe multi-million-dollar missions but gets a sharp shutdown from the hero, who finds the idea a total bore. Turning his back, the kid gives an ironic congratulations to the coffee guy and leaves the imposing office. Alone on the table, the cardboard box confirms that the current model will get to keep his high-paying job. Outside, the heavy rain continues to fall on the lights of the technological city. In a dark alley, two mysterious suits exchange confidential information under the intense downpour. With his head down, one of the henchmen apologizes, stating that the sinister test on Jiadong Island went completely wrong. Smiling bizarrely, the leader accepts the failure, but guarantees there's good news on the betting table. On a cell phone screen, a confidential recording of the Hunter Association's official test is leaked. In the video, the black flame is impressive as the evaluators scream our MC's name, completely stunned. Hidden in his hood, the villain cracks a malicious smile, finding the boy's power excellent for his bizarre plans. Soon, the calendar turns to the first day of the month, and the entire population goes into a frenzy to check the new rankings. Ecstatic, a little boy shows his smartphone screen to his mom, shocked by the new results on the chart. On the street, some delinquents ignore the list, thinking the top never changes and it's just a distraction for common folk. Inside a hospital, a patient adjusts himself in bed, eager to see the update on his favorite hunters. In a luxurious meeting room, a suit hands the global report directly to the agency's president. Leaning on her greatsword, the elite platinum blonde smirks, wondering if the rookie managed to break the chart this time. Staring at his own screen, our hero analyzes the scandalous publication of his own name blowing up online. In the headlines, the month of September marks a revolution in the official list, shocking even the most skeptical. Holding the 10th position in the world, the famous Lee Seon maintains her untouchable living legend status. In 5th place, a guy with purple hair named Kim Ki-hyun displays his sharp blades in the promo photo. Taking the bronze medal, Hunter Choi Yuriam appears engulfed in a fiery inferno covering his body. In 2nd place, the behemoth Jang Taeseok drives his swords into the ground, demonstrating unquestionable brute force. Focusing on our MC's eyes, surprise takes over when it's revealed he took the #1 national spot right off the bat. Interrupting his thoughts, an employee informs the warrior that he can now enter the stage for the press conference. In the newspapers, articles explode, praising the rookie hunter's meteoric rise, shattering historical records. Glowing signs congratulate him on the fastest climb ever recorded in the history of the Mercenary Corporation. Wearing a suit, the kid understands that soloing a level 3 area wouldn't be a big deal for an experienced veteran, but it made headlines because it was his very first mission. Facing the flashes, the press bombards him with questions about the rookie's past and whether he had secret help on the cursed island. Tired of the harassment, the hero feels like he's on a talent show and announces he'll only answer one more person in the audience. Yelling from the back, a reporter demands to know the warrior's mindset and his career plans for the future. Rejecting the cheap talk of promising great effort, the boy decides to tell it like it is, without any PR filter. With his head held high, the protagonist decrees he will prove his worth only with results and monster corpses on the ground. Later, aboard a helicopter, the young man observes a gigantic crater from above where a famous city used to be. Through the earpiece, an old man laments the horrible view, remembering that the rest of the world has completely lost control of its government and territory. Smiling, the gray-haired president explains that Korea became a powerhouse because it mastered mana technology, using it to fly in absolute silence. Assessing the ruins, the kid understands that weak countries turned to rubble when the demonic rifts erupted across the entire planet. Focusing on the landing gear, the old man suggests going down a bit to observe the historical disaster up close. Pointing to the ground, the suit tells him about the 8 deadly areas on the planet, with that crater being one of the worst. 13 years ago, hell opened up right in the middle of the urban hub, wiping out civilization in a terrifying blink of an eye. Without any warning, the anomaly swallowed theaters and wide streets, giving almost no one a chance to run. In sad accounts, the few who survived became food for the monstrous creatures that took over the dark corners of the ruins. Soon, in a matter of days, the entire metropolis was wiped off the global map, leaving only macabre silence and decay behind. Continuing the history lesson, the leader points out that central governments lost a lot of internal power after the portal apocalypse. Tired of the heavy talk, our hero directly questions the real purpose of this helicopter trip in the middle of nowhere. Calmly, the gray-haired man reveals that the tattooed behemoth went to his office to complain about the boy's defiant refusal. Remembering the veiled threat, the MC perfectly recalls the giant telling him to choose his path carefully. Unexpectedly, the old man reveals that the henchman tried to find out the rookie's home address by any means possible. Hiding the boy's file, the president warns that the rival guild settles everything with their fists and will try to hunt him down on the street to force him to sign. Clicking his tongue, the kid admits that at his current level, trading punches with that monster would be a lot of dirty work. Reading the young man's intentions, the old man deduces he prefers to be a solo mercenary and gets a scowling confirmation. Offering protection, the president suggests the boy beef up his resume by accepting direct missions from the top brass to command respect from the sharks. Holding a mysterious package, the warrior realizes there's no such thing as a free lunch and asks for the hefty price of the deal. Smiling slyly, the old man demands only that the young man remember who gave him that vital support in his time of need. Analyzing the brown envelope, the MC accepts the bargain, thinking it's great to use the boss's name to gain serious clout in the death market. Flying above the clouds, the mission is revealed, requiring a naval escort for a cargo ship from Busan to China, through seas teeming with anomalies. Reading the cargo list, the boy scoffs when he sees luxury watches and expensive cars classified as basic necessities. Dismayed, the president argues that rich people need these things to survive and finds the kid's temporal comment strange, not getting the hidden joke. Reading the report, our hero finds the contract ridiculous and doesn't understand why he needs to risk his neck to transport junk in a collapsing country. Defending its importance, the old man explains that even though the world is in pieces, international relations with other failed nations still ensure peace. With no patience for the political game, the warrior refuses the job, stating he won't be a pawn in a luxury delivery to maintain a weak government's alliance. Pale and stuttering, the old man tries to stop the refusal, reminding him that the president of Korea considers this escort mission the central pillar of current diplomacy. Coldly, the kid decrees he won't change his mind because mixing an individual hunter into state politics is guaranteed foolishness. Furious at his audacity, the suit loses his composure and calls the young man an insolent rookie who's barely out of diapers at the association. Narrowing his eyes, the president throws it in his face that the premature fame of being the nation's savior has gone to the spoiled rookie's head too quickly. Suddenly, the sound of strong wind cuts through the cabin as papers fly everywhere, scattering the refused mission. With the door wide open, our MC sarcastically thanks the old man for the useless ride and says goodbye to the shocked old man. Trembling in his seat, the agency leader hears the boy's insane promise to swim back to the city through the beast-infested ocean. In a serene freefall, the kid plummets from the helicopter, tearing through the sky like a stone. Hitting the violent water, the impact raises a pillar of foam as the aircraft becomes a small dot high above. Wiping his face, the old man grumbles indignantly about how kids these days are all crazy and have no respect. Meanwhile, the scenery changes, revealing the bustling and gigantic port of Incheon in the late sunny afternoon. Drinking coffee, a port worker notices a bizarre movement in the dirty waters of the Emerging from the ocean, our warrior coughs up saltwater, complaining about the struggle it was to swim across that rotten sea. Soaked, the young man grumbles that he didn't expect threats disguised as favors coming from that stuck-up old man. Just then, the port grunt extends a hand, helping the boy climb onto the concrete platform, not understanding how he got there. Exhausted but focused, the hero walks through the puddles, mentally plotting the next step of his grand plan for ascension. Without delay, he declares that his top priority now is to gain raw strength, so he can play the untouchable in this rotten market. Walking with authority, the kid swears he'll never again be pushed around like a puppet by guilds or powerful suits. With his phone in hand, he scrolls through the mission app, looking for the perfect carnage to level up. Coming across a bizarre call, the hunter clicks on the urgent request for the rescue of civilian hostages on the isolated island of Tsushima. Confirming his acceptance, the app sends a notification that the zone is rated as risk level 2 and up. Relieved with the heavy choice, the boy sighs, admiring the horizon, ready for the next guaranteed bloodbath. Sweating, he whispers that his schedule of atrocities is going to get pretty packed from now on, with his focus turned to extreme combat. Cutting forward in time, the news reports that at the beginning of September, fishermen from coastal areas went to sea for the ribbon fish season. Unfortunately, the anchor reports that the region's waters were terribly rough and filled with hostile presences lurking in the depths. Over the radio, the Navy warns that macabre creatures have decided to use the Tsushima archipelago to build their nests of doom. Showing the cruel reality, a surviving sailor cries in terror after reporting that the monsters kidnapped dozens of fishermen alive for slaughter. From the mission summary, the MC reads that the dual objective is to rescue the hostages and obliterate the demonic nest on Tsushima. On the map, a dark silhouette of the cursed island's ruins sets the macabre tone for the scene where he'll be working. Sitting comfortably on the sofa of his cramped apartment, our hero devours the contract details straight from his phone screen. His eyes widen at the money, and he celebrates the offer of 55 million landing in his account if the rescue is successful. With a greedy smile, the young man concludes that slicing everything up alone will line his own pockets without having to split fees with a blood-sucking guild. Planning beyond the money, he sees the media as a chance to become a national hero with the touching story of the impossible rescue at sea. Excited about his guaranteed rise, the warrior admits the fame is worth the insane risk of facing the creature's threat level. Recalling his theoretical lessons, he points out that level 3 beasts already carry the destructive force of a military tank, ready to kill. Climbing the terror scale, monsters classified as level 2 cause the same damage as complete natural disasters to the geography. At the top of the pyramid, level 1 anomalies are so overpowered they require the armies of entire nations to stop the advance of a single unit. Lying upside down on his bed, the kid relaxes, confessing that the black flame handles level 3 easily, but at level 2 things change. Worried about chaotic variables on the island, the MC thinks it's wise not to invade alone and considers a perfect ace up his sleeve. Outside, the waves crash on the boat's deck as the platinum-haired girl wields her sword in a rough sea. Coming up from behind, our hunter calls out the name Yu Chanseok. Actually, it's him being called by the scowling rookie. In tight tactical gear, Han Sanga turns around, annoyed, asking about the travel time to the hell of Tsushima. Checking the route on his phone, the hero lazily guesses the trip will take about an hour until they dock. In a professorial tone, he tells his colleague to save her breath because this battle will be a nightmare compared to the last island. Curious, he points to the shiny metallic shoulder plate on the platinum blonde's uniform, complaining about the fussiness. Showing off, the girl won't shut up about the shoulder guard being a super limited edition from the Iron Seraph brand, made with top-tier tactical leather. Annoyed by her chatter, he reveals that his mysterious supplier would never give him a spoiled brat's gift like that. Mocking her hard, the kid throws it in her face that the sponsorship expectations for a rising star are very different from those for any old intern. Biting her lip, the warrior scowls, furious, swallowing the MC's arrogant insult. Cutting to the past, a scene from days ago shows the exact moment the unlikely partnership was sealed over the phone. On the call, the hunter is training at the gym when she receives the audacious invitation from the guy who nearly scared her to death. Shaking, she questions in disbelief if he's asking her to clear a level 2 zone right after the trauma of almost dying in a level 3. Silent and calculating, our protagonist lets the silence hang on the line, forcing her decision. Hitting her weak spot, he whispers, taunting the platinum blonde, asking if she didn't dream of becoming overpowered too. Remembering her own words, the hero repeats her argument that by fighting alongside strong people, you learn the tricks on the battlefield. Keeping up the smooth talk, the boy guarantees that if she's obedient, the deadly training will transform her fragile body into a war tank. Deluded by the thought of strength, the rookie visualizes her own power tripling if she just survives the nightmares on the back of that monstrous rookie. Pondering the suicidal invitation, the girl freezes mid-workout as the proposal echoes in her head. Pushing hard in the shadows, her hidden reason for training until her skin tears speaks louder than her instinct for self-preservation. With a bloodthirsty look, the young woman decrees she would dive into hell itself if it guaranteed she'd become stronger and unbeatable. In the present, the wind punishes their bodies on the deck as the threatening coastline approaches. Suddenly, a red alarm blares on the boat's panel, warning of intruders swimming nearby. Confirming the radar, the navigation system reports that large, unidentified objects are floating loose in the water just ahead. Analyzing the shadows in the fog, the duo realizes they're not whales but 5 old ghost ships stopped at sea. Gripping his spear firmly, The hero questions how they'll get there stealthily to avoid waking the herd and getting the hostages caught in the crossfire. Floating coolly in the air, the platinum blonde ignores his concern, showing off her perfect electromagnetic control magic. Surprised by her arrogant levitation, the kid asks mockingly if she also knows some flying tricks. Silently, the boy stares at the gray sky, processing the shame of having to ride in a little boat while the intern flies high above. Feeling superior, the rookie lets out a sarcastic smile, mocking the grumpy leader's frustrated face. Laughing like a maniac, the hunter celebrates her small victory, pointing out the buff guy's lack of flexible mana and mobility. Suddenly, the scene cuts to the two of them riding a rickety jet ski, tearing through the water with a deafening noise, kicking up foam. Warning her not to crash and sticking to the bizarre stealth plan, the MC tells the improvised pilot to park the jet ski at the nearest ship without sinking everything. Feeling the mana in the air, our boy realizes that the deeper they go, the more dangerous it gets. Soon it hits him and the situation becomes crystal clear in his mind. Just then, a leap tears through the air toward the enemy ship. With a heavy landing on the deck, our young MC arrives ready for a brawl. Startled, the bizarre monsters scream as they realize that movement isn't human. Behind him, the girl also lands, but the kid warns that this will wreck her joints. On top of that, all this noise will definitely attract the unwanted attention of the horde. Deaf to his advice, the girl stomps firmly on the ground, cracking the ship's wood. Suddenly, an explosion of blue lightning wipes the zombies off the map in an instant. Impressed, our hero notes that these creatures are just Z-level. But the real surprise is seeing his partner's absurd strength up close. Clearly, all that electricity is no joke. Worried, he yells Han Sanga's name in the middle of the smoke. Without mincing words, the boy warns that she's using too much mana and will dry out fast. With her eyes narrowed, the warrior grumbles that this level of power is more than enough. In an attempt to help, the kid says he can make her much stronger if she agrees to be his student. Furious, the girl ignores everything and releases another massive shockwave. Worried about her limit, the MC yells that she's still overdoing it. Paying no mind, the warrior focuses only on slicing every monster that appears. In her mind, the memory that the lives of the weak are a true tragedy speaks louder. Dark memories of a cold childhood make her promise never to be defenseless again. In the middle of her attack, she hears her partner's warning to look ahead. Bringing a giant pillar of energy from the sky, the girl reaffirms her unshakable will. Determined to get stronger, Sanga swears she would even jump into hell itself if necessary. Finally, the skeletons fall, toasted and lifeless, on the ship's floor. Panting and covered in sweat, the swordswoman tries to catch her breath. Stepping softly beside her, the hero mockingly asks if she's done with her work yet. With a smirk, he announces that he already cleared the other ship all by himself. With her sword back in its sheath, his partner grumbles that now is not the time to show off. Surprising the boy, she thanks him for the advice, while he says that many people prefer to ignore warnings. For the first time in his life, our hero confesses that someone listened to his teachings. Curious, the girl questions this, but soon discovers that his absurd talent scared off the other students. Confident, the young MC guarantees that if she keeps listening, she'll get strong and surpass any teacher. Joking about the situation, he says he'll make her learn from him forever, leaving the girl annoyed. Nearby, two guards salute in a sign of respect for the hunters. Ready to provide support, the officers wish the duo good luck and say they'll be on the neighboring island. With his eye on the mission, the kid relays the information that the hostages are being held in a temple. Looking at the map, they realize there are two different shrines scattered in that region. By his count, the boy points out that the main target is just a few hours' walk away. However, the real problem is knocking at their door, as the return trip with the civilians will be very complicated. Making the rescue on foot with 15 injured hostages would be pure suicide in the middle of that island. Making matters worse, a terrifying mana begins to leak from behind the dense fog. To solve this, the MC decrees they need transportation urgently to protect everyone. In front of an abandoned van, he turns to Sanga and bluntly asks if she knows how to drive. With no time to explain, the girl confirms she has the skill just as a monstrous roar echoes. Desperately clinging to the outside of the van, the hero yells, asking what the heck she's doing. Flooring it through the zombies, the vehicle flies as the kid screams if the brake is just for decoration. Focused on the wheel, the girl tells him to take over if he thinks it's so bad. Almost slipping onto the asphalt, the protagonist gives up on the idea and tells her to forget it. Right on the car's roof, he admits it's better her at the wheel than someone who's been rusty for 20 years. With his spear in hand, our young MC smiles confidently and says his real specialty is brawling. In a powerful leap, he spins the weapon with full force, preparing a devastating blow. In the blink of an eye, a colossal wind slash tears through the entire horde, blocking their path. Crushed by the attack, the frontline monsters turn to dust on the road. From above, the hero yells that more creatures are jumping straight from the right side wall. With blood in her eyes, the crazy driver says to leave it all to her and angrily yanks the steering wheel. In pure shock, the boy's eyes widen, realizing the madness his partner was about to commit. Without mercy, Sanga slams the side of the van against the wall and smashes all the zombies in a perfect drift. Laughing like a psychopath, the girl celebrates, saying that road now belongs to her. With a blank face, our MC seriously considers if he should have taken the car keys from the start. At the end of the road, a giant staircase points directly to the entrance of the mysterious shrine. Right behind the vehicle, a true avalanche of thirsty zombies continues the insane chase. Giving the final order, the boy points to the gate and tells his partner to speed straight through. Worried, the warrior asks what they're going to do with the monstrous horde on their tail. Outside the moving car, the kid says he'll handle the situation completely alone. Weapon in hand, he faces the crowd of monsters with a look that promises carnage. A dark and sinister energy quickly begins to cover the blade of our hero's spear. Using the paradox flame, the young MC summons a giant wall of purple fire, blocking the entrance. Closing the passage, he guarantees with a dark smile that no creature will take another step. Far from the commotion, the hostages appear, tied up and left in the darkest corner of the temple. Already inside, our MC approaches and calmly asks if everyone is okay. Desperate, the prisoners lift their heads and look at their saviors, not believing the miracle. Very formally, Han Sanga introduces herself as an official hunter from the association to calm everyone down. Relieved, the hostages try to move and shake their chains, seeking a quick release. Suddenly, screams of pure terror echo through the hall, shattering the atmosphere of safety in a second. In absolute panic, the prisoners scream while Sanga tries to calm everyone down, saying they came to help. Desperate, one of the hostages cries horribly and yells for them to flee as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a colossal shadow covers the girl, revealing a gigantic zombie samurai armed to the teeth. In an absurd reflex, our hero charges forward and blocks the deadly blow with his spear, sending sparks flying everywhere. Focused on the fight, the kid tells his partner to get the civilians in the car, while he handles it alone. Forcing his blade against the boy's weapon, the grotesque monster grinds its teeth, showing it's not playing around. With an agile move, the protagonist dodges the sword's weight and gets some distance from the enemy. Demanding a promise, the kid makes the girl pinky swear she'll never drive anything again in her life. Slamming the vehicle's doors, she confirms that all the civilians are safely inside. From inside the van, the driver yells the protagonist's name, telling him to pay attention to the road. In the darkness of the woods, dozens of red eyes begin to glow with a pure thirst for blood. Letting out a horrifying roar, one of the bizarre creatures leaps straight toward the vehicle. Through the rearview mirror, our MC realizes that the tough-skinned beast survived being run over earlier. Without delay, the boy asks to borrow his colleague's sword, leaving her completely confused. Indignant, the swordswoman says that asking for a warrior's blade is the greatest possible insult, right as the monster roars. Using pure logic, the hero questions if her honor is worth more than people's lives and ends up convincing the girl. In a perfect throw, the warrior entrusts her main piece of equipment into her partner's hands. As he firmly grips the handle, the protagonist activates a mysterious blue glow on his wrist. With a serious face, he grumbles that he didn't expect to use that secret trick so soon. The scene then flashes back, showing the boy inside a dangerous erosion zone a few days earlier. Rummaging through the spoils of that place, the kid finds a peculiar item on the ground. Before him rests a technological gauntlet, very different from the common weapons of that world. The moment he puts on the equipment, he feels that it's far from being a simple piece of armor. Analyzing the luminous panel, the hero discovers that the artifact can absorb pure mana directly from the air. From the item's appearance, the MC concludes that the gauntlet serves to improve the user's energy flow as a basic support. However, for someone with his skills, that item works as a truly superpowerful magic battery. The kid quickly calculates and realizes he has exactly 5 minutes of full charge to fight at a master's level. Back in the present, our hero leaps from the moving vehicle straight onto the dark highway. Immediately, the relic's bluish energy begins to pulse strongly through his arm. With a single devastating cut charged with purple lightning, the protagonist slices the creature in half in the middle of the street. Stunned by the scene, the girl watches everything in the mirror, not believing the damage he caused. In a cloud of dust, the van drives away as Sanga wonders how he decimated the entire horde in the blink of an eye. With a yell, her partner tells her to stop looking back and floor it toward the port. The scene then changes to the deserted and silent streets of the coastal region. Even with its engine smoking, the rickety van keeps running as the driver reflects on the mission. Behind the car, dozens of insane zombies don't give up the chase and continue to scream with hunger. Worried about the vehicle, the swordswoman suggests stopping to fight, but the hero tells her to keep accelerating. Suddenly, the tires screech on the asphalt just as a magic barrier glows on the ground. Against an invisible wall, the monsters are electrocuted and thrown far away, letting out howls of pain. With the perfect opening, the transport flees, tearing down the road free from threats. Through the rearview mirror, the girl notices the horde has stopped in its tracks, as if it hit a concrete wall. Suspicious of everything, the partner turns her head and looks at the kid, seeking answers for that miracle. In a quick move, she points behind them and notices a huge golden transmutation circle carved into the street wall. To clear up the doubt, our MC reveals that it's an advanced technique called the Circle of Blessing. Curious about the fancy name, the girl asks its purpose, and he sums it up by saying it's a ritual to banish demons. Desperate for more power, the student questions its origin, but the teacher says he brought this magic directly from another world. Far from caring, the protagonist smiles smugly and praises his own absurd evolution. During the explanation, the warrior asks if he can defeat any creature with that trick. In a direct tone, the boy shatters her hope, warning that the magic doesn't affect real enemies. Gripped by pure hatred, the zombie samurai reappears, repeating over and over that he must protect the offering. Eyeing the beast, the hero murmurs about a skill called clairvoyance. Under great tension, the girl feels the pressure in the air change and deduces that the enemy possesses the gift of predicting attacks using a sixth sense. Shaking, the swordswoman panics as she realizes that a corpse has mastered a brutal technique. Calm in the midst of chaos, our MC places a hand on her shoulder, asking for calm and total focus. Paying no mind to the danger, he claims these fancy names are just cheap illusions and tells her to pay attention. Suddenly, a sinister power flashes in the kid's eyes, as he promises to teach her in practice how to tear that abomination apart. Full of fury, the giant samurai charges forward, tearing through the wind with his sword raised for a lethal blow. Shocked, the warrior screams, asking why he's walking alone toward certain doom. With firm steps, the hero explains that clairvoyance is just the accumulation of reflexes forged in thousands of battles. As the monster's blade comes down, the boy adds that even a simple murderous intent can trigger this instinct. Hypnotized by the lethal lesson, the student mentally repeats the legendary terms of martial arts. Face to face with the beast, the protagonist decrees that all these made-up levels of mastery don't mean much. In an absurdly fluid motion, he slides past the brutal attack, making the colossal sword hit only the empty asphalt. In a deadly pirouette, our young MC shreds the boss's armor and body into dozens of pieces. As the remains fall from the sky, the hero announces with boredom that there was nothing special about it. In a warning tone, he states that fancy names make the weak stop evolving on the battlefield. With the heavy gaze of someone who has already lived through hell, the kid asserts with absolute certainty that he has earned the right to speak these truths. Because of his cruel past, he confesses to have made bizarre sacrifices and destroyed many lives just to escape this mental trap. With distant eyes, the boy scoffs, saying that for a tough-as-nails monster to have that as a last resort is simply pathetic. Saddened by her own level, the warrior bitterly reflects on her own uselessness throughout the entire hunt. Under the shock of reality, she realizes that while she was limiting her own potential, her partner had already rewritten the meaning of brute force. Furious with her weakness, the girl decides that half-hearted determination is no longer enough. Directly to the protagonist's back, she makes the definitive decision to achieve her revenge and the pinnacle of power. Finally, the swordswoman musters the courage and calls out the kid's full name in a more serious tone than ever before. With her eyes shining with a pure thirst for blood, she swallows her pride and begs to be truly trained by him. Surprised, our MC asks if he wasn't already teaching her, but the girl says that just advice isn't enough. Very seriously, the girl demands direct, practical training to reach the top. Comparing her own strength to his, the swordswoman admits she's useless and needs to race against time. Driven by pure hatred, she reveals her desire to destroy the Shaddai Club with her own hands. Immediately, the sinister reputation of this group comes to light, as they swallowed the entire Himalayan mountain range at once. Uncomfortable with the weight of the mission, the kid questions if this is all just for pure revenge. Without hesitating, the warrior confirms she will make them pay the price for what they did to her family. With a black card in her hands, she says she doesn't expect help for free. Getting straight to the point, the heiress says her family owns the giant KY group, valued in the trillions. Impressed by his partner's pedigree, our hero discovers she gave up the war for the company's succession. Worried, the boy warns that success as a hunter could drag her back into that corporate fight anyway. Focused only on getting stronger, Sanga promises to deliver ultra-rare elixirs if he turns her into the best of all. Reviewing the terms of the deal, the MC reflects on the chance to use these items to achieve his own goal faster. With a mocking smile, he concludes that his partner would never believe the truth. Secretly, the hero keeps the fact that he has already surpassed this absurd level of power many lifetimes ago. In fact, the only reason our hero seeks more strength is to restore the world to what it once was. Taking the card without ceremony, the kid says he has no use for the rare items. Pointing to the destroyed van, he demands only a new ride and tells them to take the civilians to the hospital. Far away, a doctor carefully assesses the condition of the rescued survivors. Checking the clipboards, the doctor reports there are 7 weak patients suffering from severe malnutrition. According to the grim diagnosis, it will take at least a week before any of them can even open their mouths to give a statement. Asking for calm, the professional advises absolute rest, and the 2 hunters agree without causing trouble. Outside the room, the master calls his new student to begin the hellish training at that very moment. Stepping onto a completely remote, empty lot, the duo prepares for real combat. Before any movement, our protagonist raises a finger and asks a simple test question. With a sharp gaze, he wants to know if the girl could dodge a full-power spear strike. Honestly, the warrior admits that the brutal difference in level would make it an impossible mission. Disagreeing on the spot, the boy guarantees it's possible to escape if she pushes her instincts beyond their natural limit. The bizarre lesson soon begins, requiring her to use her eyes in a much deeper way. Focusing on her hearing, he tells the girl to capture every vibration in the surrounding environment. Closing her eyes, the girl tries to track any strange smell in the air. Through her skin, the swordswoman seeks to feel even the slightest change in wind pressure. Very close to her face, the kid whispers for her to master all her senses and fight completely instinctively. Without giving her a second to breathe, the master draws his weapon in the blink of an eye. Startled, the warrior realizes her partner vanished from her sight before she could even finish her sentence. Desperate, the girl tries to concentrate and focus first on the sound to find the attack's position. Appearing like a ghost behind her, our hero warns in a threatening tone that her tactic is wrong. Criticizing her absurd slowness, the MC teaches that the body needs to react long before the brain thinks. Pressing his student, he warns that in real combat, flawed senses will work against her and cost her her life. Putting the useless theory aside, the kid announces that now things are about to get real. Far from that lot, an absurd explosion violently shakes the building's walls. Curious, the guards watching the place jump in fright from the blast. In a desperate run, one of the officers tries to find the hunter duo amidst the dust. Arriving at the scene, the policeman's eyes widen, and he freezes from head to toe. Paralyzed by absolute terror, the man can barely form a sentence in front of that bizarre scene. In the center of a newly created crater, our hero's spear sweeps the ground, kicking up a storm of rocks. Trembling in pain, Han Sanga crosses her blade and blocks the devastating impact on pure survival instinct. Thrown by the brute force, the girl slides, breaking the concrete with every inch she's pushed back. Relentless, the master gives no quarter and already prepares another massive attack aimed at her head. With death knocking at her door, the swordswoman is shocked to realize there's nowhere left to run. Right at the moment of the lethal cut, the policeman raises his hand and yells the boy's name, begging him to stop. Catching his breath, the guard announces that one of the hostages suddenly woke up and needs to speak with them. Lowering his weapon, our MC murmurs in surprise at how time has flown, while his partner nearly collapses from exhaustion. Satisfied with her defense, the kid ends the session, stating that the girl has finally learned not to die so easily. Turning his head, he dryly checks if the girl is okay and receives a whispered yes. Back in the hospital room, the survivor faces her saviors with an exhausted expression. In a trembling voice, the woman reveals that a truck stopped at the captivity site shortly before the rescue began. Intrigued, the protagonist asks if the newly arrived group had also been kidnapped by the monsters. Shaking her head no, the hostage explains that they were relaxed, and the zombies didn't even dare to attack the team. Solving the mystery, the civilian reports that this group just picked a few humans and took them away as if they owned the place. Immediately, it clicks, and our hero finally understands why there were only 7 stragglers left in the temple. With a sigh, the woman corrects the story, saying that their liberation had nothing heroic about it. Outraged by the revelation, Sanga's eyes widen as she realizes the kidnappers deliberately discarded the injured. With his arms crossed, the kid asks his partner to connect the dots and explain her own deduction. In the hero's mind, it would be impossible for a human to escape an erosion zone full of creatures if someone hadn't opened the doors. Putting the pieces together, the warrior concludes that the so-called distress call and the rescue were just a setup. With a sharp smile, the young MC scoffs at the arrogance of this gang-playing god. Suddenly, a dark aura envelops the boy, who doesn't tolerate dirty tricks using innocent lives. Sweating, the student looks at her master, trying to decipher if his fury is from wounded pride or something deeper. Putting his thoughts aside, the partner turns to the victim and demands to know if there are any more useful clues. In a faint murmur, the woman utters the word cat, leaving the duo looking clueless. Racking her memory to its limit, the hostage remembers a very specific detail about the truck's leader. Without a doubt, she states that the suspect wore a bizarre cat keychain hanging from his waist. Down the building's hallways, the kid praises his colleague's insight about discovering the origin of that airport mascot. Laughing at her partner's lack of culture, the rich heiress jokes, asking if the hero spent his whole life living in a cave. Noticing the lack of people around, the protagonist suggests going back to the shrine quickly. But before any move, he lifts his head and says he's already found the target. Directly from the top of the wall, a face full of piercings stares at the hunter duo with a bizarre smile. Joking about the strange appearance, the boy mockingly asks if the guy ran his face through a sewing machine. However, his killer instinct speaks louder, and the kid quietly warns that despite the ridiculous look, this opponent is no joke. Wearing a white dabak, the mysterious enemy finally introduces himself as Kim Jae-hyun. Exuding confidence, the fighter states he came with clear orders to take the duo alive. Immediately after, he lifts one of the previously vanished hostages by the collar. In a brutal move, the villain throws the innocent civilian from the top of the wall straight into the abyss of the erosion zone. Surprised by the gratuitous cruelty, Sanga can barely process the guy's level of sadism. Smiling like a maniac, the fighter explains that the victims remain trapped in the location until the core is completely destroyed. In midfall, the thrown victim's eyes begin to glow with a blood-red hue. Shocked, the hunters watch the terrible transformation of an ordinary human being into a demonic abomination right before their eyes. Frustrated with the result, the enemy grumbles that the host was too weak to create a quality monster. In a lightning-fast attack, he descends from the wall, splitting the air with a devastating kick aimed at the heroes. Understanding the whole macabre engineering behind this circus, the kid mutters that it was all practically impossible to do. Questioning their motives, his partner asks if the ultimate goal is to turn the two hunters into beasts as well. Laughing loudly, the villain confirms and says that sacrificing nobodies wasn't yielding the strong monsters he so desired. Crossing his arms, the hero finally understands that this bizarre group was trying to use normal victims to get rich. To get their hands on cash, the scumbags need high-level hunters to forge valuable beasts. With the most shameless look, the fighter confesses he doesn't care much about the two victims, but will explain the elders' plans anyway. Puffing out his chest, he says he belongs to a group calling themselves the descendants of Dangun, and they've united for a divine purpose. Without fear of sounding crazy, the guy claims their final mission is to ensure Korea dominates the world as a superpower. And the magic solution for that is to simply use the energy from the erosion zones to shield the country from any attack. According to the gang's crazy speech, if the plan works, no one will be able to threaten or touch the nation ever again. While spouting all this madness, the fighter launches a thunderous blow, exploding part of the ground. Bored, the protagonist barely moves and lets out a big yawn, calling it all a bunch of nonsense. Fed up with the patriotic speech, the kid kicks up an absurd amount of dust while avoiding the heavy attacks. Planted on the ground with his spear, the hero refutes the argument, saying the country is already strong enough without all this dirty business. Annoyed, the enemy charges again, yelling that it's never enough for the plan to turn Korea into the greatest, unshakable empire in history. In a direct advance, the boy prepares his attack, focused on shutting the lunatic's mouth once and for all. Agile, the villain leaps, avoiding the blow, and shouts that the true objective is to prevent neighboring nations from meddling in the country. Citing the history books, the guy tells them to remember the bloody history and how many tributes were paid in humiliating ways. With hatred in his eyes, he mentions the humiliation of bowing their heads to every cheap provocation and losing their own sovereignty to Japan. Focused on patriotic revenge, the fighter wants to use the mutant beasts to pay back, in the same coin, every drop of blood shed in the past. Analyzing the enemy up close, the hero realizes the black belt is much faster than his demented appearance suggested. In a violent dive from the air, the villain tries to crush the duo, promising to make the whole world pay dearly. Withstanding the pressure, the boy reflects on the absurd mana control his opponent uses in every move. On the other hand, our hero throws it in the enemy's face that if the erosion zones were wiped out, Korea would remain rich anyway. Taunting the fighter, the MC deduces that the patriotic heroes never had any real intention of saving the world at all. Raising his voice, he points out the hypocrisy of threatening millions of civilians just to play dictator of the erosion zones, and highlights the ignorance of the plan. Calm and focused, Kim refutes the accusation, saying they've already discovered a safe way to tame the anomalies. Hearing the unexpected confession, the boy pauses the fight for a moment, digesting the dangerous news. With his guard up, the kid agrees that if the control is real, a lot of people could stop getting themselves wiped out in these battles. Trying a dirty deal, the MC asks for time and throws a feeler, saying he'll hand over Han Sanga on the spot if the villain shows proof of this miraculous control. Pouting, the enemy takes a step back and questions why he should share the gang's secrets with a nosy kid. Catching the lie, our hero taunts him, saying that if he's hiding something, it's because the group's magic is a pure bluff. Dropping the sarcasm, the boy states that the guy is just a charlatan who talks a big game but has no proof of anything. Unable to hide his anger, the fake savior loses his cool and tells the duo to shut up with a brutal spinning kick. In the blink of an eye, the asphalt is shattered, sending pieces of the ground flying like shrapnel. Retreating at the last second, the MC slides across the destroyed terrain, admitting he might have pushed a little too hard with the taunt. Checking his gauntlet, the kid mentally curses the situation for not having had time to recharge his own energy. Completely empty, he concludes that using the paradox Black Flame is out of the question and the fight will now be pure endurance. When hope seems lost, a green aura explodes, tearing through the air and charging at the enemy. Surprised, the fighter smirks, finding it funny that the little girl decided to snap out of her paralysis and try her luck. Without hiding his mockery, Kim calls his opponent cutie and congratulates her on her sudden courage. On the other side, the hero grumbles worriedly, saying this fight is above his partner's level and tells her not to get involved. With a fixed gaze on her master, Sanga retorts that she just needed to give him the exact time he wanted to recharge his battery. Pulling a mysterious syringe from her pocket, she looks straight at the kid and asks how much time he needs. In a single gulp, the girl swallows the unknown liquid as the gauntlet's charge flashes weakly, showing only 5 minutes left. Now covered in the potion's absurd energy, the warrior demands that her partner leave all this dirty work in her hands. Startled by the emanating force, the boy realizes the girl swallowed a pure elixir and warns about the dangerous overload. With a grim face, he confirms the 5-minute limit, guaranteeing that after that he'll finish the fight. Calling the hero by his full name, his partner warns him not to even think about losing after the sacrifice she was about to make. In response, a monstrous lightning bolt illuminates the entire night sky above the road. With no time to blink, the girl charges in a blue explosion, screaming in shock at the opponent's disgusting taunts. In a bolt of pure energy, the swordswoman tears through the air, splitting the highway in half and aiming for the villain's head. Focused to the limit, the student holds her breath for a second, hoping her speed was enough. With just a thin trickle of blood on his chin, the pierced guy scoffs again, asking if the whole sacrifice only produced that. Frustrated, the warrior can't take it and collapses hard on the ground, suffering the consequences of the overpowered elixir. Falling like a dead weight, the swordswoman passes out before seeing the fighter prepare the final attack. Suddenly, the villain notices something and turns his head in confusion, just as a voice tells him to focus on the sewing machine. Facing the villain head-on, our protagonist is ready and asks in the coldest tone imaginable if the guy is ready to go to hell. Shaking in shock, Kim doesn't understand how the boy's mana exploded and became absurdly larger out of nowhere in less than a minute. Holding the fallen girl's shoulder, the hero sighs as the gauntlet glows brightly, showing its true power for the first time. Shocked by the deduction, the villain desperately asks how the kid discovered the secret of the piercings. Gripping his spear firmly, the hero replies that only an idiot wouldn't have noticed the truth right in front of him. Pointing to the air, the protagonist explains that the guy is leaking refined mana everywhere like a leaky sieve. Using this free energy, our MC reveals he managed to restore the paradox Black Flame for free. Furious and sweating, the fighter grumbles that it's humanly impossible for someone to absorb wasted energy like that. Preparing his combat stance, the boy decrees that the guy doesn't need to understand anything since he's going to die right there. Suddenly, a trail of blue light cuts through the air with absurd speed. Delivering a brutal combo of 16 hits, the kid pummels the enemy without giving him a chance to defend. Fallen and spitting blood, Kim tries to catch his breath and realizes his lungs have stopped working. To make the panic situation worse, the villain notices that even his own heart has stopped beating. Staring at the trash on the ground, our hero mocks the guy who can barely stand and is only surviving on pure magic. Calmly, the MC comments that his opponent has already burned through all the muscle strength he had. At the height of humiliation, the defeated man cries out for help, calling for a captain. Instinctively, the boy's eyes widen as he notices a stealth attack coming their way. Focused on the new threat, the kid prepares for the worst, wondering who just arrived. Holding a traditional bow, a hooded man appears, frustrated that he didn't shatter the boy's wrist. Stepping onto the battlefield, the newcomer praises our hero's good survival instincts. Analyzing the mysterious archer, the protagonist wonders if this hidden guy is the famous captain. Feeling the crushing pressure in the air, the kid reluctantly admits the enemy is at least twice as strong as old acquaintances. Quickly correcting his calculations, he notes the real power is 4 times greater as the villain asks if he's afraid of meeting his end. Keeping his cool, the MC replies that if the goal was to kill him, the arrow would have already flown straight for his head a long time ago. Intrigued by the boy's audacity, the archer shows interest in the sharp conversation. Right beside them, the black flames continue to devour Kim Jae-hyun, who begs for mercy, screaming. Without beating around the bush, the hooded figure gives a direct order for the hero to put out the fire on his ally immediately, warning that he won't repeat himself. Reading the situation, the MC realizes the leader is keeping the trash alive using his own energy. Keeping the secret to himself, the kid knows that even if the arrow had aimed for his head, he never would have perished. Complying with the demand for now, our boy snaps his fingers and dispels the black flames from the fighter's body. Facing the leader, the hero questions if the guy understands the miserable state his ally is now in. Shattering the enemy's hopes, the kid decrees that the black belt will spend the rest of his life in a useless wheelchair. Totally cold, the archer retorts that as long as there's breath, life goes on, and begins to use green magic to stabilize the wounded man. Challenging the villain, the boy tells him to try his luck, as he'd rather perish than become a puppet for some crazy terrorist. Pondering the mystery of that green flame, the protagonist decides to retreat out of pure strategic caution. Bragging about his own achievement, the hooded figure mentions that no one believed in controlling the rifts until he performed the miracle. Disappearing in a cloud of dust, the archer leaves a macabre promise that one day our hero will also be his lackey. In the middle of the destroyed highway, the boy watches the two lunatics cowardly flee the crime scene. Tired of all the nonsense, the hero sighs heavily, muttering how annoying it all is. Reflecting on his own luck, the kid realizes he ended up picking a fight with some very bad-tempered people. Limping down the street, Sanga approaches as the protagonist deduces that the guy's real target is her unique ability. Thinking quickly, the girl points out that if it were just a kidnapping, they would have taken her when she passed out on the asphalt. Demanding more focus, the master tells his student to analyze the terrorist actions to understand the gravity of the situation. Shocked by the new line of reasoning, the warrior's eyes widen, questioning if the government itself is funding this dirty business. Without ruling out any options, the boy confirms that the gang looks like it's getting direct support from untouchable big shots. Frightened by the weight of the conspiracy, the girl suggests stopping the rift cleanup, but the MC tells her to not give a damn and play dumb. Sweating, the swordswoman bluntly admits she's a terrible liar when it comes to dealing with betrayal on a national level. Focused on the immediate mission, the hero decides to deal with the current core first and tells his partner to wait outside. Worried about the danger, the student insists on asking if he's sure going in there alone is a good idea. Maintaining the mystery, the kid coldly replies that the girl doesn't have the stomach to see what the terrorists have set up inside. Walking toward the darkness, he promises to uncover all the dark truth hidden in the place. Giving her one last order to rest, the boy vanishes in an instant, leaping toward the main target. Tearing through the wind like a lightning bolt, the protagonist advances without hesitation, straight for the enemy base. Before him appears a dark and gigantic castle, marking the center of the dangerous Level 2 erosion rift. Standing at the main entrance, the hero faces ghostly green symbols glowing brightly on the wooden doors. Analyzing the threat level, the kid confirms that a Class 2 rating demands absolute focus. Even with the appearance of an abandoned ruin, he recognizes that the magic emanating from that castle of the undead is deadly. With every breath, the MC feels the negative yin energy piercing his very bones like needles of ice. Aware of the macabre layout, the hero knows perfectly well that the nightmare's core pulses on the other side of that wall. Gripping the spear's handle, the boy remembers that letting his guard down in there for a single second means immediate demise. Entering the hall, the protagonist is met with a hellish sight and spots a sinister cauldron bubbling. The emerald fire burns intensely, spewing smoke around the furnace in the middle of the dark room. Intrigued by the discovery, the kid approaches slowly, wondering if that bizarre pot is the heart of the anomaly. Staring at the structure up close, our hero admits that the macabre scene is far from anything he had imagined. Suddenly, from the shadows, a man crawls desperately, begging for help with a choked voice. Crying in agony, the victim reports that his leg was severed, and he's suffering unbearable pain on the stone floor. Stretching out his blood-stained fingers, the poor guy pleads for a chance to get out of that slaughterhouse alive. In the blink of an eye, a chain of greenish energy whips out from the back and brutally drags the civilian away. Straight from the cursed furnace, a monstrous zombie is expelled onto the floor, proving the origin of the enemy army. Putting the horrifying pieces together, the boy's eyes widen as he discovers that the terrorists are sacrificing live humans to forge monsters. For a millisecond, sad memories of past lives haunt the hero's mind, bringing up bitter questions. The memory of epic battles and the fires of war burns in the protagonist's mind, rekindling an extremely ancient hatred. Fighting back the urge to vomit, the kid covers his mouth, disgusted by the level of moral decay of that scum. His face hardening with a silent fury, the young MC decrees that this whole ritual is purely disgusting. Breaking the castle's silence, a mysterious voice echoes in the darkness, treating the hostage as just another number. Ghostly footsteps in a cyan hue walk across the floor, as the voice admits that our hero is no ordinary prey. Emerging from the mist, the spectral figure murmurs that he senses a sharp and curiously familiar aura coming from the boy. Showing its true form, a phantom samurai glowing with green flames recognizes the kid as a genuine warrior. Focused on the enemy, the samurai points a glowing finger and tells our hero to draw his weapon immediately. In a macabre tone, the Phantom warns that he will bathe his own blade in the boy's fresh blood. Ignoring the threat, the protagonist wonders if that giant wandering soul is really the center of it all. In a cold whisper, the kid questions how the heck the hooded figure managed to capture such a strong abomination and maintain total control. Immediately it clicks, and the MC realizes the power needed to imprison that spirit is simply gigantic. Knowing the imminent danger, the hero pushes aside secondary thoughts and focuses on the battle so he doesn't end up in pieces. Right beside him, the Cyan Phantom laughs at his distraction and whispers that a single mistake here means it's lights out. Startled by the enemy's absurd speed, the boy can barely keep up with the green blur tearing through the air. Laughing sinisterly, the samurai mocks the hero's insistence on continuing to fight for his life. With no time for talk, the kid remembers the basic rule of fighting absurdly strong bosses. Spinning his spear in the blink of an eye, he tries to land a fatal blow before the apparition discovers his weaknesses. With a smooth and terrifying motion, the Phantom raises its glowing sword just in time to block the massive impact. Green and blue sparks fly as the samurai's blade perfectly blocks the tip of our hero's spear. Shocked by the ease of the defense, the MC's eyes widen, realizing his full-power attack didn't even leave a scratch. Sweating, he panics as he notices the entity repelled the blow as if it were nothing. More than the bizarre block, the kid is stunned that he couldn't even see the exact moment the samurai moved its arms. Analyzing the brightly glowing spectral blade, he admits that the attack was near the speed of light. In the hero's mind, the monster's movement should have been completely invisible to the naked eye. Without a second's rest, the cyan apparition spins its body and returns a violent slash at the boy. Spitting blood, the MC is thrown backward by the crushing impact as he hears the warning that the hell has just begun. Taunting him further, the Phantom Beast praises the kid's agility and invites him to a second round of brawling. Playing with its prey, the Green Samurai bets that this time the hero won't be able to block the lethal sequence. Flying far away, the boy feels every bone in his body creak as he tries to process the absurd beatdown. Lying in a dark corner of the hall, our young MC breathes heavily, facing the formidable enemy. Frustrated with his options, he internally curses the dumb decision of having already used the Paradox Flame. Making matters worse, the Black Flame is completely useless, since the opponent isn't a living being and can't suffer damage from the technique. Trying to buy time, the kid throws a feeler and bluntly asks what it would take to defeat the entity for good. Seizing the opportunity, the apparition summons a whirlwind of dark spikes and drives them all into the hero's back. Trapped and agonizing in pain, the protagonist realizes the blow destroyed every muscle fiber in his body. With an unshakable air of superiority, the Phantom smiles as it watches the hero wither on the cold floor. Fighting not to pass out, the kid notices that miraculously the bastard didn't crush his shoulder muscles. Feeling the last spark of hope, the hero once again invokes the cursed fire to forcibly regenerate his body. Preparing a suicidal ambush, the boy concentrates all his mana, trying to blow up the enemy's back by surprise. However, in a millisecond, the Phantom Warrior's deadly instinct thwarts the hero's entire plan. With a freezing gaze, the monster murmurs that the boy was too slow to finish the job. Immediately, the giant sword descends, pinning the hero to the ground and instantly immobilizing him. Spitting a pool of blood and coughing horribly, the MC realizes his end has never been so close. Faced with the pathetic scene, the Cyan spirit sighs with an air of pure disappointment. Observing the bleeding kid, the samurai shakes his head, calling his counterattack a total failure. Annoyed by the Phantom's theatrics, the boy spits on the ground and tells the enemy to stop talking nonsense, since he was just almost decapitated. Getting straight to the point, the protagonist throws it in the spirit's face that he went easy on all the deadly blows on purpose. Being honest, the MC states that if he were in control of that giant sword, he would have sliced off his own head in the first attack. Surprised by the kid's accurate read, the Green Samurai reveals a sad secret about his past. The monster confesses that he has no memories, and his entire life boils down to being a lackey for an unknown man who defeated him in a humiliating way. Putting the puzzle pieces together, our hero finally understands the real meaning of the word control, spoken by the so-called terrorist. Continuously sunk in his own misery, the green entity laments having lost his memories and the essence of his own life. Hidden in the spectral glow, the warrior reveals that he has forgotten even his own name and everything he once stood for. Letting his resentment show, the monster confesses he has even forgotten the reason he became a swordsman. All that remains inside that cursed shell is an insane and blind desire for revenge against his enemies. Listening to the creature's outburst, the hero grumbles under his breath, trying to figure out how to turn this miserable game around. For a moment, the MC's thoughts drift to his past lives, wondering if he himself isn't in a very similar hole. In the blink of an eye, a black staff smashes the cyan energy, destroying the sad mood and bringing the focus back to the carnage. Startling the kid, the spirit assumes a more bizarre form with dozens of eyes popping out of its own body, and asks if he looks so pitiful now. Without showing any reaction, the boy knows the monster's obsession has just reached an uncontrollable and lethal level. Assessing his chances in a direct fight, the protagonist rethinks the advantage of fighting someone who has forgotten their original moves. If that big guy can't deliver an instant fatal attack, our hero sees a light at the end of the tunnel. Knowing it's all or nothing, the MC concentrates every last drop of mana, revealing a frightening purple aura around his body. In a colossal leap, the boy distances himself from the samurai, spinning his weapon, ready to activate rage mode. Sensing the magic of the black flames, the monster praises how quickly the lethal wound on the hero's chest began to magically heal. Intrigued by the scent of the protagonist's magic, the green entity notes that this fire seems to burn much more than just physical matter. Laughing at the enemy's sharp comment, the MC praises the monster's nose and bluntly explains that the fire burns concepts themselves. Without delay, the kid details that the flame used to melt everything it touched, turning energy and ideas into literal ash. But now, with his mana level so low, he has to be surgical so he doesn't dry out and end up wiped off the map. The problem with this power is that if he messes up, the flames will consume his own muscles and leave him paralyzed like that fighter outside. Nostalgically, the hero jokes that if in his past life he was like an indestructible titanic sword, today he's nothing more than a rusty kitchen knife. Until now, the kid's focus has been on controlling the technique, so he doesn't off himself in the middle of a fight and lose his offensive powers forever. Releasing the brakes, the MC cracks a dark smile, promising to fry the durability of the chains binding the phantom to the castle. Confused by the boy's crazy metaphors, the samurai tilts his head, admitting he doesn't understand half the nonsense being said. Leaving the details aside, our hero spins his spear, stating that talking too much is for the weak, and now the brawl will settle things. In a deafening charge, the kid tears through the hall's ceiling, launching the apparition against the centuries-old beams in a colossal impact. Choking on the impact, the phantom tries to absorb the blow while attempting to reform its own unraveled spectral structure. Laughing amidst the destruction, the boy hypes up the fight, telling the old guy to understand the magic by taking a punch straight to the face. Walking over the shattered stones, the monster exudes a crushing aura, stating it wants to test the limits of a true warrior's real power. Fed up with destroying old furniture and wanting to break everything for good, the thousand-eyed villain proposes a change of scenery to start the apocalypse. With a single leap, the figures shatter the ceiling, jumping straight to the top of the castle under the dark sky. Spitting violet lightning, the boy charges forward, firing insane slashes everywhere in an attempt to hit the target. Dodging with agility, the phantom retreats as pieces of concrete are decimated around it. In desperation, the hero forces a direct blow, but the entity crosses its blades in a deafening block. Sliding across the roof, the MC finds a tiny opening and finally manages to drive his weapon into the enemy's defense. Smiling confidently, he yells to himself, confirming he managed to tear through the monster's body. Suddenly, the support under the boy's feet crumbles, sending them both straight to the ground. Landing on his feet on the asphalt, the protagonist cushions the fall, already prepared to continue the frantic fight. In a second, the phantom warrior takes flight, conjuring a colossal green cyclone to clear the field. Pausing in the air, the apparition analyzes the situation from above as if it were untouchable. Determined to end the party, the hero leaps into the void, aiming for the villain's chest with everything he has. Colliding their weapons with fury, the two destroy the entire structure beneath them with the force of the impact. Seeing the samurai give way and start to slip, the kid wonders what the heck is happening. With bulging eyes, the phantom admits it has never felt such pressure, not even when it was alive. Fascinated, the monster questions what kind of monstrous entity that boy really is. Without answering, the MC just smirks, spinning his weapon ready to finish the creature for good. In a whirlwind of brilliant slashes, the protagonist's violet energy envelops the giant spirit in a deadly prison. Gripped by pain, the phantom samurai bellows in a deafening roar as the flames consume its cyan body. Without stopping its roar, the entity watches its own eyes being devoured by the relentless magic fire. From above, the hero watches the show of destruction with his spear pointed at the dying enemy's back. With the fight finally over, the kid sighs in relief as the last green glow disappears in the dust. Ending the combat with a bang, a colossal explosion illuminates the entire horizon, sweeping away the rest of the castle. Suddenly, old memories flood the hero's mind, recalling a serious talk with his old master about lost battles. In the flashback, the old warrior asked what the MC would do if he came across a completely unbeatable monster. At the end of the world, the two warriors talked in the trenches, trying to understand the meaning of true strength. Curious, the old man wanted to know if there was anyone capable of defeating the hero, without even breaking a sweat. With a blank face, the kid replied at the time that if such an absurd guy appeared in front of him, The logical and obvious answer was always to try to destroy the target before the fight even really began. Cold as ice, the protagonist of the past concluded that in the end, one of them would have to perish, and he preferred it to be the other guy. Back in the present, the kid laughs at himself and the old promise he made in his previous life. Caressing the spear's handle, he whispers with pure ego that in the end, he's still the strongest. Focused on the mission, the hero wonders if it wouldn't have been better to bring Sanga to finish the job safely. Worried about his partner's equipment, he looks around, hoping her sword is still in one piece. Through the destroyed castle window, the night sky shines clearly, announcing that the erosion zone has begun to dissipate. Further away, Sanga finally wakes up from her faint, blinking in confusion as the environment stabilizes. Hearing heavy footsteps, the girl tries to move, but her bones are completely locked in pain. Stomping firmly, the MC appears and sticks the warrior's sword into the ground, shattering part of the stone. Trembling, the swordswoman slowly turns her head and whispers her partner's name, not believing he's alive. With an ironic smile, the boy says he found a sword floating around and told her to grab it before someone stole it. Surprised, she pulls the blade from its sheath, noticing the weapon's perfect condition after all the chaos of that day. Joking about her nervousness, the kid tells her not to worry about the sword, but to focus on the fact that he already cleaned up the whole mess by himself. Feeling exhaustion hit, the protagonist announces that now it's his turn to take a little nap. In a straight fall, the hero collapses on the rooftop floor, completely drained from burning through his energy limit. Surprised, the girl's eyes widen, understanding that he faced the entire level 2 core and still survived to tell the tale. In her head, the feat was impossible, as level 2 beasts require entire squads to be eliminated. Meanwhile, in the city, reporters are already shouting on the radio that a prodigy kid destroyed a Class S threat all by himself. Watching the giant kid's face on the building screens, people gossip in the streets, not believing the historic achievement. In his hospital room, the hero looks at his phone, flooded with notifications, grumbling about the fame he never asked for. Exhausted with so many calls, he says he can't go out anymore and prefers to just lie in bed. Two soft knocks on the door get the boy's attention as he puts on his pajama shirt. Entering slowly, a woman in a suit formally introduces herself as Ja Sujiang, sent directly from the embargo tower. Confused, the protagonist accepts the visit, noting that he's never heard of this secret organization. Laughing politely, the employee asks him not to be bothered, and says the group prefers to operate in the shadows. Getting straight to the point, the visitor suggests that the expensive hospital must cost a fortune and that she wants to propose a trade. Cutting to the chase, the MC says that time is money, and asks her to drop the bomb without beating around the bush. Trying to be nice, Ja Sujiang pulls out a box of sweets and offers a piece of cake to break the ice. Focused on her objective, she opens a hologram showing a newly created technological shield generator for combating monsters. With his mouth full of cake, the hero observes the device, quickly understanding the main idea. Wiping his face, he guesses that the woman wants to hire his services to protect the equipment during its journey. The agent confirms his guess and details that if the machine becomes standard, the burden on hunters' shoulders worldwide will plummet. Understanding the mission's absurd value, the boy smiles slyly and guesses the commission for the job will be pretty hefty. Reading the contracts, the kid's eyes widen when he sees the size of the reward and says the deal just got good. Detailing the route, the agent says the generator will travel by train through the main ports of Russia and Europe. With his face glued to the map, the hero questions the stop in England if the machine was produced in the United States. Not shying away from the truth, the employee confesses that all of Europe has collapsed and turned into an anarchic battlefield for monsters. The continent is now dominated by guilds and armies fighting for control, and the money from military protection. Connecting the dots, the boy understands that such a revolutionary technology in the midst of chaos will become the main target for mercenaries. Smiling at his cleverness, Jasu casually asks if the hero has already gotten his passport to travel abroad. With a shrewd look, the woman confirms that she herself will accompany the entire trip on the technical support team. Speaking with his mouth full, the boy scoffs, saying the lady talks as if he's already signed the contract. Slamming his fork on the plate, the MC makes a single demand and insists on including Han Sanga on the team. Refreshing the lady's memory, he says he trusts his partner who fought with him at the temple completely. Agreeing immediately, the employee says that if the master trusts his student, the embargo tower approves her participation on the spot. Smiling, the hero stands up, shaking the woman's hand, sealing the deal and aiming to increase his own power in the world. On a building's rooftop, the corporation's helicopter is already waiting with its engine running, ready for the team to take off. Ready to fly, the kid turns his confident face to the horizon, prepared to destroy any insolent European who tries to cross his path. Fed up with the flimsy excuses, the association's elder states that all that frustrated expectation has now become proof of incompetence. Turning his back on his subordinate, the old man says the organization will use all available power to fund and support their plan. Down the dark corridor, the Phantom Archer overhears the conversation, worried if the big boss really knows about our boy who survived the rift. Sweating, he wonders if the director would rather see the world in pieces, or if he'd completely lose it upon learning the kid's true strength. Suddenly, a huge shadow passes by, blocking the window's light and catching the startled villain's attention. Already inside the military helicopter, the famous hunter Lee Si-yoon greets the hero after a long time without seeing each other. Striking up a conversation, she jokes that his name has become the main gossip all over the city, and that it's hard to find someone who doesn't know the legend. Flying past the metropolis's buildings, the MC just smirks and asks where exactly this flight is taking them. When he finds out the destination is the central base, the hero finds it strange that the embargo tower is involving the national army itself in the mission. Understanding the game, the veteran explains that if the so-called shield generator works, countries' dependence on hunters will drop dramatically. Following the logic of power, she bets that in the Korean army's view, not everyone will be happy with peace and the loss of military utility. Changing the subject, the kid ignores the cheap politics and bluntly asks if she's ever heard of a group called the Descendants of Dangun. A bit surprised, the hunter freezes, confirming she knows about this mafia of ultranationalists who have been attacking hunters and invading erosion rifts. Smiling darkly and remembering the hatred he endured, the hero says he ran into the pathetic little group during his last mission. With a stern look, the woman shakes her head, warning that the mafia's goals may seem noble in theory, but their method is pure, blind carnage. Bored with the flight's bureaucracy, the boy hands the hunter a small package to try and cut the heavy atmosphere. Looking at the pumpkin candy, the woman is completely confused, questioning the reason for the sudden gift. Trying to help, the MC notices she's nervous about the trip abroad, as she's never left the country. Relaxed in his seat, he confesses it's also his first time traveling far and that anxiety hits everyone. Accepting the treat, she sighs, resigned, finding the crew's nervousness understandable given the mission's weight. Soon, the helicopter approaches a gigantic base that looks more like a true fortified city in the middle of nowhere. Getting off the aircraft, the entire team goes straight to the main room where the strategic meeting is already set up. Sitting at the head of the table, the hero listens to Ja Soo-jeong ask everyone to follow the distributed file on the convoy's rules. On the screen, Brigadier An takes the stage to explain how the madness of this operation will work in practice. Pointing at the graphs, he informs them that the kilometer-long train will have 80 armored cars, but only 15 of them will be for the elite hunters. Showing the map, the old man indicates that the Korean soldiers will have their own quarters, but hunter Lee Si-yoon will receive a VIP card just for herself. Grumbling, the MC agrees that the treatment for the number 10 ranker really needs to be different from the rest of the common folk. The problem starts when Ja Soo-jeong announces that the embargo tower has entrusted the guard of the generator car to only a tiny group focused on the Janabi Guild. Disagreeing with the flimsy security, the military man gets stressed, slamming the table and wanting to push his own army to guard the valuable equipment. Immediately, the veteran hunter joins the conversation, cutting the old man off and questioning how many mercenary groups are targeting the cargo. Suspicious, the general glares at the hunter and asks why only the Janabi Guild has free access to the main car. Ignoring the army's jab, the suited members of the tower just agree and ask the old man to continue the military briefing. Scowling, the brigadier swallows his wounded pride but returns to pointing at the map, detailing the worst routes of the journey. Satisfied, the agent focuses on the main report, wanting to know what kind of abominations await the convoy along the track. The military man warns that they will cross dozens of eroded areas, but only 7 of them are classified as a true risk of total annihilation. To add to the chaos, the agent says that heavily armed bandits also roam Siberia, looking for valuable cargo and lone hunters. Sighing heavily, the MC scoffs at the irony of fighting train robbers in the 21st century, just like in a bad Western movie. The military man reinforces the danger, warning that only 3 of the 8 guilds sent friendly warnings, and the other 5 are probably already setting traps. Facing the suicidal math of the mission, the hero mentally concludes that worrying about guilds, beasts, and bandits on a weeks-long trip borders on delirium. Feeling the mood get heavy, Hunter Lee tosses her hair back, telling everyone to calm their nerves and trust the team's skills. With a sharp smile, she guarantees that whether it rains knives or the devil himself shows up, the train will reach its final destination in one piece and shining. On the long-awaited D-Day, the massive convoy waits at the cold Vladivostok station under the heavy supervision of hundreds of guards. Through the corridors, the crew tries to guide the crowd, shouting directions to the second-class cars and separating the VIPs. In the middle of the blizzard, Sanga walks bundled up, complaining about the freezing cold and the long walk she had to take to get to the luxury car. Laughing at her complaints, the kid appears in his impeccable uniform, saying he would never forget his promise to bring her along. Looking at the bundled-up hero, his partner grumbles that she didn't see him anywhere during the hours of boarding at the station. Taunting the girl, the boy laughs in her face, saying of course she didn't see anything since he was tucked away in the warm comfort of first class. Dodging the jab, the student notices Hunter Lee's heavy presence and senses the crushing aura of a true, tough-as-nails veteran. Focused on the environment, Sanga realizes the security around the main hunters is on a terrifying, ironclad level. Right on time, Jasujeong appears walking in the snow and asks if the two have gotten a good look at the giant train's defenses. The hero shrugs, confessing he just arrived, but the tower really didn't spare any expense on the wall's armor plating. Pleased with the observation, the employee says the entire composition is sealed and prepared to withstand monstrous impacts. Questioning the tactical choice, the MC points out that a train this size draws too much attention and becomes a bright, moving target for enemies. The agent agrees there's no way to hide the metal behemoth, but emphasizes that the depleted uranium plates protect against almost everything. Cutting the technical conversation short, the gray Siberian sky is invaded by dozens of flying beasts tearing through the clouds, straight for the train. Inside the command cabin, the radio explodes with static as a blood-soaked guard screams for urgent help in car 57. Without a second thought, the kid ties his coat and jumps into the snow, heading for the chaos, cursing the lack of time to even breathe. Less than 10 minutes before the official departure, the MC throws himself into the middle of the creatures, slicing through the mutant birds as he runs along the tracks. In the heat of the carnage, he curses the infinite number of creatures, noting that if Hunter Lee were out there, it would be an easy massacre. However, he remembers the railway was already destroyed, and the team needed the workers outside to get the machine moving. The bitter reality of the contract was that the hunters had to become babysitters and living shields to protect the manual laborers fixing the tracks. The kid internally laments seeing the veterans' raw talent wasted in a boring defensive role that prevented her from obliterating the horde. Cursing whoever came up with the plan, he kicks away another mutant zombie with a spinning kick, clearing the area. Staring at the red storm forming in the sky, he sighs heavily, predicting this was going to be the longest day of his life. From the top of a snowy peak, a humanoid shark monster throws its human lunch onto the ground. Confused by the intrusive presence, the scaly giant looks at the icy mountain, trying to see where the unwanted visitor came from. Sitting near a fire in the middle of nowhere, a mysterious man grumbles that the beast has shown up again to be a pain. Furious at the interruption, the shark monster lets out a bone-chilling roar and charges like a tank at the guy. In a titanic impact, the human breaks through the ice barrier and sinks a colossal punch right into the creature's face. Wiping the smoke from his fist, the big bald guy scoffs that the shark showed up without a peep before getting rowdy. Stepping out of the shadows, the man with his hair tied back gives a fake smile and calls out the name of the legend known as Lee Ha-yoon. Claiming business, the suit states he has a special mission and was lucky to find something fun going on. Standing in the middle of the ice, the brutal bald man finally introduces himself as Nikolai Baranov, the Supreme Regent of Khabarovsk. Furious with the visitor, Baranov kicks the rest of the monster's disgusting meal away, complaining about the lack of Korean manners. Wiping the blood from his hand, he glares at the man with tied-back hair, demanding to know what the contract is about since he doesn't work for peanuts. Maintaining an air of mystery, the suit states he's absolutely certain the proposal will catch the behemoth's attention. Without delay, the visitor reveals that a train leaving the coast will cross that frozen region in 2 days at most. Totally skeptical, the bald man bluntly retorts that this main railway was destroyed a long time ago. With a cynical smile, the messenger explains that the hunters can fix the tracks quickly using raw magic. Straight to the point, the Russian regent ignores the engineering lesson and asks what the heck this machine is transporting. Caring little for the cargo, the Korean says the golden detail is finding out who's providing the military escort. Soon, the famous hunter's nickname from the rival guild is thrown into the mix, making the giant's eyes light up with surprise. Quick on the uptake, the big villain deduces that his ally has already cooked up a dirty strategy against the relentless veteran. Cracking a psychopathic smile, the Russian confesses that going head-to-head with the Korean legend sounds like a lot of fun. Correcting his partner, the contact explains that the objective isn't to steal anything, but to focus on a specific armored car. Mentally calling his ally an inferior race, the suit denies the brutish idea of simply blowing everything up. Showing a small device, the traitor details that the mission is to invade the car and connect that terminal to the main machine. With a bloodthirsty look, the bald man asks if it's a problem to smash the equipment right after the job is done. On the same evil wavelength, the client smiles widely, guaranteeing that the target's total destruction would be a huge favor. Crazy for carnage, the monster accepts the contract, promising to slaughter every living hunter right in the untouchable veteran's face. Drooling with hatred and excitement, the behemoth roars to the icy winds that he won't leave even a speck of dust of anyone.